This is Atomic Shinobi and today I'm going to narrate third and final part of what if good Naruto mastered flying Raijin. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Always sting no more time. Let's start the story.
The new Princess Gale film's director exclaimed, "WH. What is this?" The assistant director exclaimed, I don't know. I woke up, and this was here waiting for us. What should we do?" The director commanded, "This is perfect. We'll start shooting now. Everyone get moving." 2 hours later. It was all set up for the scene. Everything was going smoothly. Kaboom! Yes, nearly. It became clear that Kakashi had thrown an explosive toward the mountain when one turned away from the scene of the explosion. As the smoke disappeared, Nadare said, "Ha ha ha ha. So you noticed. Very good, Kakashi." Nadare Roga. "I'm assuming Fubuki Kakuyoku and Mizore Fuyukuma are here as well," Kakashi replied. The woman with the pink hair said, "Ah, you remembered us." Aware that this could cause problems, Kakashi answered, "Not many people with pink hair, Fubuki." Sakura asked, "Kakashi, you know these people?" "Well, I was here 10 years ago. I fought them back then. I'm not as inexperienced as I was then, but this'll still be a little troublesome," Kakashi responded. As Naruto prepared for battle, he said, "Shouldn't be too much trouble, sensei. So what are your orders?" "Sakura, you take care of Yukie. Naruto and Sasuke, take out Fubuki and Mizore." Kakashi gave the order. Although Naruto is a chunin, he realizes that he still has to take orders from me. But he'll have to learn to make the right calls when I'm not around, eventually. Heh. The three exclaimed, "Right," as they dispersed to fulfill their sensei's directives. Sasuke and Fubuki. Sasuke had tried to start a taijutsu fight, but Fubuki was preventing him from doing so by using ice style. As he started to make hand signals, Sasuke thought, "I thought only that Hikugai could use ice style, peeved. Whatever, I'll just melt it. I'm stronger than I was back then. Fire style. Fireball jutsu." As he used his clan's signature jutsu, Sasuke shouted. To stop the big ball of fire, Fubuki countered, ice saintly, ice wall jutsu, and formed a wall of ice. Sasuke noticed that there were indications of ice melting as the fireball subsided. As he closed his eyes, Sasuke thought, I see now. This isn't the ice style, Keke Genkai. This is just jutsu that manipulates the surrounding ice. Hey, I figured you out." He opened them again, revealing the Sharingan's fiery red eyes. Sharingan? Fubuki started with more hand signals, thinking, so, the brats of the Uchiha clan. Doesn't matter, he still won't get past my chakra. Armor. Fubuki yelled, ice style. Swallow snowstorm, as a storm of swallows formed out of the snow from below. Sasuke made his own hand signals as the jutsu approached him. As his jutsu decisively defeated Fubuki's, Sasuke yelled, fire style. Dragon flame jutsu. Yuki and Sakura. After witnessing Sasuke's fire jutsu, Yukie passed out from the memories of the previous 10 years. Sakura shouted, "Yukie!" while checking on the actress. Sakura picked her up and started running in the direction of the ship after realizing she was simply unconscious. Naruto and Mizore. Naruto was struggling to control his opponent. Naruto would throw jutsu at him, but each one would simply pause before striking its target. Earlier, Kakashi had shouted that it was chakra. Armor, which amplifies one's own chakra while cancelling out the enemies. With the trench knives Asuma had given him, Naruto screamed, "Ah, come on. Stop being a coward and fight like a man." Instead. As he directed his retractable cable at Sakura and Yukie, Mizore said, "It doesn't matter what you call me, brat. You're going to die today." Naruto screamed, "Not gonna happen," and used one trench knife to cut the cable that was going to Sakura. Naruto had used his wind chakra to extend the blade significantly. Naruto spun around and swung his other trench knife horizontally while maintaining the same level of focus. Mizore exclaimed, "What the?" as he witnessed the cable abruptly fall. Before he knew why, an unseen blade was striking him. He was fortunate to have his chakra armor shielding him. It dawned on him abruptly as he turned to face Naruto. As the sparks flew between Naruto's wind blade and his chakra armor, Mizore thought, so this little brat cut the cable. That must mean he's a wind type. Heh, useless. Nadare and Kakashi. As of right now, Kakashi and Nadare appeared to be evenly matched. However, Kakashi was merely imitating Nadare's ice style, employing the jutsu to buy the crew some extra time to board the ship. "You won't defeat me by mimicking my jutsu. Just hand over Princess Koyuki Kazahana and the hex crystal," Nadare replied. Surprisingly, Kakashi exclaimed, "What? That's Princess Koyuki Kazahana of the Land of Snow?" Nadare posed a rhetorical question, HNHN. Of course, do you honestly think we'd waste out time with any of you otherwise? Nadare then formed more hand signs to continue the battle. Ice style, white whale jutsu. A massive ice form white whale rose from the ocean and collided with the island, sending everyone reeling. Sasuke and Fubuki yelled, ice style, ice prison jutsu, in an attempt to seize Sasuke. Ice pillars were on their way to Sasuke. Except for one, Sasuke knew he couldn't avoid it. Sasuke employed the substitution jutsu and allowed himself to be imprisoned in the ice prison. Fubuki exclaimed, shit, when she realized that the item in the ice prison was an iron stove with a paper bomb fastened to it. Kaboom! The result was shards of ice flying. She had earlier created an ice wall, behind which Fubuki had moved. Sasuke began a series of hand signals as he saw his opportunity to attack. Before he lost his balance due to the earthquake, Sasuke began, fire style. Naruto and Mizore, the extended wind blade of Naruto, continued to clash with Mizore's chakra armor. Until the earthquake knocked him to his knees, the two were unable to move. Naruto started, what the? Mizore was anticipating an earthquake because he had observed Nadare's hand signals. When it did, Mizore activated his snowboard and charged at Naruto. Mizore screamed, I told you, you were gonna die, and punched Naruto. Out of sheer instinct, Naruto entered Mizore's guard. Naruto's chakra flared slightly as he threw his own punch at close range, aiming for Mizore's stomach. A big blade emerged from inside Naruto's sleeve as a result of this action. After a brief collision, the blade pierced the chakra armor. Because of the angle of the punch, the blade had entered Mizore's belly button from about an inch to the upper right left. As seen from Naruto's point of view, and exited his spine. Gak. Mizore fell to the ground with a loud thud as he slid off the blade, and blood started to pour from his mouth. As Mizore released his final breath, he said, why, you be, brat. When Naruto looked at the blade, it was 3 inches wide and 1.5 feet long. Then Naruto saw a tiny note affixed close to the blade's base. Naruto read the note, took it out, and stopped the chakra flow. Greetings, Naruto. I hope the surprise I gave you in the gauntlets is enjoyable. It seemed like a good addition to me, Gai-sensei's idea. Likewise, I hope you were not harmed before discovering the unexpected. Anyway, once again, congratulations on your Chunin status. I hope you enjoy it. Tenten. Naruto put the note away and went to check if Sasuke or Kakashi needed backup. It would have been so much better if she told me sooner. I mean, I almost died. Come on, he reminded himself. Naruto didn't even take 2 steps before he witnessed 2 massive white whales emerge from the ocean and engage in combat. What the hell? Exclaimed Naruto. After cancelling out Nadare's own jutsu with the copied, ice style, white whale jutsu, Kakashi yelled, Naruto, get to the ship. We're heading out. Naruto said, right, and began to walk toward the ship. Nadare and Fubuki expressed her surprise by saying, I can't believe Mizore got taken out by a leaf brat. That just means the Mizore should never have been a Junin for this land, that's all. Let's go, we need to report back to Lord Dodo. Nadare replied as he walked away. Right, was Fubuki's response, on board the ship. Sakura referred to the tear in Naruto's sleeve when she said, hey, Naruto, are you okay? Yay, just this hidden blade that's installed into my gauntlets. Gai-sensei gave them to me, but it was Tenten's idea to put in the blades. Naruto responded. Was it a congratulations gift for making Chunin? Kakashi returned from checking on the actress, princess, and said, yeah, I heard Shikamaru got pillows because he likes to take a lot of naps. Sakura said, oh, hey Kakashi-sensei, is Yukie alright? Yay, she's just unconscious. Kakashi answered. Kakashi turned to face Naruto and asked, is it safe to assume we have one less enemy ninja to worry about, Naruto? Yay. Even if he somehow survived, the hidden blade on my gauntlet severed his spine, replied Naruto. I see. Good work, all of you. Land of Snow Palace the following day. Are you telling me that a Junin of our land was defeated? By a child? Dodo gasped. Nadare said, why? Yes sir. If it were by this, Kakashi, it wouldn't be a problem. But to be bested by a child is absolutely humiliating. Not getting the hex. Crystal makes you look all the more incompetent. Dodo fumed. He was furious that he had lost one of his pawns to a child in addition to the fact that they had failed in their mission. After a brief period of silence, Dodo resumed her conversation. Ready the train. And I will be joining you, to ensure that you don't fail me again. Nadare and Fubuki said, "Yes sir," and then departed to get the train ready as directed. Naruto and company, land of snow. As everyone was moving through a tunnel in a mountain that supposedly had train tracks beneath the ice, Naruto sighed and thought, "Can't believe it. We're stuck protecting a spoiled actress, who turns out to be a real princess. And she doesn't give a damn about the people of her country. How can someone be so heartless?" Sandayu had told them all about it back when they were still on the ship. How Koyuki Kazuhana, the princess of the land of snow, was actually Yukie Fujikaze. Her people were going to rebel against her uncle Dodo because of this movie, which was actually meant to bring her back. That Dodo was responsible for the murder of her father, the former feudal lord Sosetsu. Koyuki quickly interrupted, stating that it was useless to sacrifice one's life for a nation without springs. Naruto was really irritated by that. Despite everything that had happened, he simply couldn't comprehend how she could be that way. He felt that his life had been more difficult than hers, and he didn't end up that way. However, he had to acknowledge that he could have been more like Gaara if he had taken a different turn. Naruto's train of thought was cut short when he heard a terrified voice yell. The assistant director exclaimed, "Director! Yuki! I mean, Koyuki has run away again," just after everyone had left the tunnel. Naruto said, "I got her," right before he detonated a smoke bomb. Naruto vanished from view as soon as the smoke cleared. The director asked, "Where did he go?" Kakashi looked at his fellow pupils and said, "Naruto has a way to track people down quite quickly. However, I don't think he left himself a way to get back." Or, Sakura and Sasuke simply shook their heads. Sigh. Rewind. Kakashi began to walk below deck with Yukie at his side, saying, "Well, I'm going to go take our actress to her room. I'll be right back." Soon, they would leave the land of fire and head for the land of snow. The voice called out, "Hey, Kakashi-sensei." Kakashi turned around and saw Naruto holding a small stack of tiny pieces of paper with a familiar seal on them. What is it, Naruto?" he asked. "Can you hide these in some of her clothes? You know, in case she tries to make a run for it," Naruto inquired. Taking the little stack, Kakashi replied, "Hey, sure." Koyuki, in the hopes that she would be long gone by the time they noticed, Koyuki had attempted to flee. She stumbled and tumbled down a hill because she was so engrossed in her thoughts. Fortunately, she was unharmed. "You made it pretty far. Too bad it doesn't matter how far you go." Koyuki raised his head to see who had located her. It made Koyuki think, "Tisk. That kid again." Angrily, Koyuki exclaimed, "Why don't you just leave me alone?" after being discovered. Naruto picked up Koyuki and laid her on his back, saying, "Because, like it or not, it's my job to protect you. Now come on. Let's get you back." When Naruto realized he had forgotten to leave a seal at his previous location, he said, "Aw, come on, I forgot to leave a. Damn it." Sigh. "Never mind. Let's just go." In the tunnel, Naruto had been carrying Koyuki for a long time, until Koyuki made the decision to speak up. The trip had been quiet. "You can take me back if you want, but all I'm going to do is act in front of the camera. That's it." Yay. "Wouldn't want you getting your hands dirty fighting for your country, like a real princess would," Snidely said to Naruto. "And what's that supposed to mean?" requested Koyuki, who was becoming irate with the blonde. Peeved. "I mean, a real princess would fight for their country, regardless how scarred they were from what happened. Not always try and run away, because they're a coward," Naruto replied in a calm voice. Before being cut off, Koyuki started, "What would you know what kind of pain I went through? I lost." Before he realized the ice had abruptly melted and two sets of tracks were visible, Naruto started, "At least you knew at least one of your parents. I was lied to about mine. I was too." From behind them, he began to hear a sound. The sound of a horn soon became more distinct, and he could see a light coming their way. "Run! It's a train!" exclaimed Koyuki, fearing that he would be run over. Naruto retorted, "You don't have to tell me twice," and started to run as quickly as he could. Naruto exclaimed in exasperation, "Oh! Why didn't I put down a damn seal to get back? Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it." Koyuki shouted, "Run faster, Naruto, it's gaining." "You think I don't know that?" Naruto shot back, focusing chakra on his feet to speed up his sprint. "Ah!" Naruto acknowledged that there was hope. Dodging the train that had begun to catch up to him, Naruto gave it his all as he ran to the end and leapt to the side. Pant. Pant. Huff. Huff. Laying in the snow with Koyuki a few feet away, Naruto exclaimed, "Maid. Pant. It. Huff." The train was now stopped. When Naruto heard a loud voice coming from the train, he began to get up. From the rear of his train, Dodo said, Yukie Fujikaze, or should I say, Koyuki Kazahana. Welcome home. Now, surrender the hex. Crystal. Don't listen to him, milady. Sandayu yelled from the summit of the hill. Sandayu was dressed like a samurai, in contrast to earlier. Hundreds of people in similar clothing were behind him. Sakura exclaimed, "Ah, Sandayu," in some surprise at the power at his side. Everyone, attack. Sandayu commanded. The small army roared, "Ah," as they charged. They didn't see Dodo give one of his subordinates an order as they were charging. The train's walls raised, exposing holes that were 7 by 7 inches square. The train suddenly began firing waves and waves of kunai. Sandayu's forces made a vain attempt to divert the numerous kunai waves. For an army with little to no ninja training, the sheer volume was overwhelming. Sandayu was the only person standing, and it had barely been a minute before a final wave was fired. Sandayu said, I'll never give up hope. Not for this land, nor on Lady Koyuki. Fortunately, the wave did not strike. Nevertheless, Sandayu was unable to continue walking. Dodo gave the order, "Let's move out." The train had started in the direction of the bridge when a big snowball struck it as it crossed. The final cart, which contained Dodo, was essentially kept on the bridge after the snowball struck the second to last cart. The cart fell off the side of the mountain as the bridge exploded a few seconds later. Over by Sandayu Squad 7 and a large portion of the cast were created by Sandayu. As he drew his last breath, Sandayu said, P. Prink. S. Koyu. Ki. P. Please, D. Don't shish. Eat A. Any tears F. For me. There was a brief pause before Koyuki's monotone voice broke the stillness. Koyuki then got up and turned away, saying, "You're a fool, Sandayu. I can't cry, because you have my eye drops." If it weren't for Naruto's voice, she would have left. Naruto became increasingly irate with the princess of this land and yelled, "What? Is that all you can say? He gave his life, because he believed in you. How could you just act like it's no big deal?" They began to hear something coming from over the cliffside before Koyuki could respond. What looked like an airship appeared a few seconds later. But upon closer examination, it turned out to be the train cart held up by a huge helium container. Once more, Dodo's voice could be heard over the speaker. This isn't over yet, Princess Koyuki." Sakura whimpered, "Oh no, why couldn't he have just died in that fall?" Naruto approached the princess with his kunai drawn and exclaimed, "Sakura, you think you can hit the rudder on that ship?" At her. As Sakura began making hand signals for the jutsu that Kakashi had taught her, she answered, "Definitely." Sakura shouted, "Lightning style. Lightning sniper strike jutsu," as she held out her hand facing the ship. Sakura's fingers shot a powerful bolt of lightning that struck the rudder. The airship was knocked in the direction of the mountain by the small explosion caused by the strike. On board the ship, kaboom! Nadare gave his leader a status report, saying, "Lord Dodo, the rudder was hit with a lightning-style jutsu. We've lost control, we must evacuate." "Very well. We'll just finish things here. Leave no one alive," instructed Dodo. "Yes sir," Fubuki and Nadare said, returning to Naruto and company. "Well done, Naruto. Preventing a hit-and-run kidnapping attempt by having Sakura destroy their airship using the jutsu I taught her so she could reach Princess Koyuki." Kakashi thought, "But I'm sure he knows that won't finish them off." Kakashi was pleased that Naruto had thought of that so fast. "What now, Naruto?" When Dodo and his henchmen landed in front of them, Sakura inquired. "We'll just kick their ass, and make sure they don't hurt the princess or anyone else," replied Naruto. Sakura thought, "Of course, just state the obvious, why don't Shaw?" She made a mental face, palm. "I'll take the girl in that scenario." After a smirking Fubuki, Sasuke said, "We have some unfinished business from last time." "All right. Make sure the princess and the others leave the battlefield, Sakura. We don't want anyone to suffer harm." Seeing that Kakashi and Nadare had already moved their battle to another location, Naruto commanded, "I'll take on that Dodo creep." "What? But Naruto, shouldn't we worry?" Sakura started, but Naruto cut her off. "Sakura, Sasuke and Kakashi-sensei are currently engaged in combat. The only effective jutsu you possess is ineffective against that chakra. Armor. You can assist anyone who needs it after you've finished escorting everyone to a secure location. Just follow instructions for the time being," Naruto said before heading out to Dodo. Sakura appeared astounded by Naruto's logic, and upon reflection, she saw that he was entirely correct. I suppose Naruto acquired a brain in addition to that Chunin vest. As she eventually went to carry out her orders, Sakura pondered. Koyuki, Naruto will battle Dodo by himself. Not possible. No one can defeat Dodo, so he can't? He will die. Koyuki wondered why she appeared to be so concerned about Naruto. Nadare and Kakashi had enticed Nadare across the tunnel, and when he was certain that no innocent people would be caught in the crossfire, he halted and faced his adversary. Kakashi, you finally stopped running? With his typical arrogant demeanor, Nadare said, you know that copying my jutsu won't help you win, not against me. Kakashi formed the necessary hand signs and responded, maybe so, but I thought I could show you one of my own, original, jutsu. Nadare had begun to make his own hand signals, Blade of Lightning. Wolf Fang Avalanche Jutsu in ice style. Keeping his jutsus active, Kakashi tried to pierce through Nadare's chakra armor, knowing it wouldn't work, which is what he was counting on, and charged towards him as both jutsus came into action, piercing through one of the ice wolves that stood in his way. The chakra armor succeeded in canceling the jutsu as it struck, but Nadare was pushed off the cliff's edge by the shockwave that followed. Hey, is this all he's got? Before being abruptly seized from behind, Nadare thought, pathetic. What the? A ninja must always have taijutsu, regardless of whether they possess genjutsu or ninjutsu. As he began spinning quickly, Kakashi exclaimed, Primary Lotus. Sasuke and Fubuki. You genuinely believe you can stay up with me, little man? Fubuki smirked and taunted her opponent. Sasuke answered with a small smirk of his own, Ice Prison Jutsu in ice style. In an attempt to surprise Sasuke, Fubuki called. After a simple dodge, Sasuke activated his Sharingan and called out his own jutsu, Fire Style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu, while making his own hand signs. By leaping into the air, Fubuki was able to easily avoid the tiny balls of fire. However, the shuriken flying directly past her caught her off guard while she was in the air. She caught a glimpse that the shuriken were fastened to ninja wire. She noticed that the shuriken were circling her when she looked over her shoulder. As she applied the substitution jutsu, Fubuki thought, this brat. Does he honestly think that he'll beat me with a lame tactic like this? Sasuke tracked the snow kunoichi using his Sharingan because he anticipated this. Sasuke quickly found her and started making the hand signs for his last jutsu. Ice style. Ice Prison Jutsu. Just as she was ready to emerge and begin a new jutsu, Fubuki became aware that the ice beneath her feet had begun to trap her. Before she was imprisoned in an ice prison, Fubuki's final words were, What? This is impossible. Remember that this ice style isn't a keke genkai like Haku's. It's merely a way of working with the ice, not making it. I'm sure you already knew that, but I thought I'd mention it. Sasuke approached his imprisoned opponent, aware that she was not killed by being trapped in the ice prison. Sasuke activated his Chidori and said, I suppose I could just let you die slowly in this ice prison, but since I've gained some just you from you, I'll finish you off quickly without suffering. Dodo and Naruto. Since Dodo had taken to the air and wouldn't allow Naruto to approach, the two were having a hard time. Naruto shouted, come on, get down here and fight like a man, you overgrown coward, as he attempted to make contact with his wind, chakra and trench knives once more. Dodo saw the attack coming and just ducked, as though it were a minor annoyance. I've heard about all your skills thus far, so I won't fall for such a lame attack, Dodo said, observing Naruto's shocked expression. After that, Dodo focused on locating Princess Koyuki, who was now concealed among the snow-covered rocks. Dodo came to this conclusion because he was unable to identify the princess among the group of people fleeing. Grr! You bastard! Screamed Naruto, angry at his ineffective attacks. As he prepared his trump card, Naruto thought, okay, then. I guess I don't have a choice. Koyuki had been observing the fight and had easily slipped past Sakura. She had observed Dodo evading Naruto's blows. She didn't think Naruto had any chance of winning. Despite this knowledge, she somehow didn't want anyone else to perish. Like a bad cold, the words Naruto had said to her would come and go from her mind. Princess Koyuki made up her mind and left her hiding place. Koyuki, Naruto, and Dodo. When Dodo saw Princess Koyuki, he said, When Naruto saw Princess Koyuki, he screamed, What the hell are you doing? You should be with Sakura and the others. Get out of here. Princess Koyuki answered, Mind your own business, this doesn't concern you, Princess Koyuki said as she turned to face Dodo. Dodo. If you want me in the hex crystal, then fine. Just leave everyone else alone. What? Naruto muttered, startled by the final statement. When a puff of smoke appeared out of the corner of Dodo's eye, he interrupted, saying, Very well, doesn't matter to me, so long as I get what I w. Naruto emerged from the smoke beside Dodo and screamed, "That's not gonna happen. I don't care what happens, I'm not gonna let you take the princess." Instead, in an attempt to kill Dodo the same way he killed Mizore, Naruto swung a fist in Dodo's direction. Naturally, Dodo was aware of his intentions, but he chose not to dodge. Clang. "What the?" exclaimed Naruto, astonished that Dodo's chakra armor was impervious to his concealed blade. Dodo smirked and remarked, "Ha ha ha ha. This is a more advanced chakra armor than what the others use. A pitiful blade like that won't be able to pierce it." With the intention of knocking Naruto back to the ground, Dodo delivered a punch of his own. Naruto made an unsuccessful attempt to parry the punch. Dodo's forearm came into contact with Naruto's hand, but because of their disparate physical prowess, the punch struck Naruto's temple rather than his jaw. Then Naruto was launched into the snow-covered ground. Dodo used rhetoric to ask, "Now that the nuisance is out of the way, shall we go then, Princess Koyuki?" Before grabbing Koyuki with a grappling cable that resembled Mizore's. After that, Dodo and Koyuki took off in a plane. "Ha ha 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 ha. Now the Kazuhana treasure will be mine, ha ha ha." The remainder of Squad 7 arrived a short while later. They were shocked to see Naruto simply standing there gazing up at the sky. Kakashi stopped beside Naruto and said, "Naruto, what happened? Where's Dodo and the princess?" "Princess Koyuki came out and let herself get captured, as long as he left everyone else alone," replied Naruto. Sakura exclaimed in astonishment at Naruto's folly, "And you're just standing there, doing nothing? How the hell did you become a chunin?" "I had a plan ready before she came out and ruined it, so I had to come up with a new plan." "And you knew PLA is just to stand here doing nothing?" Without displaying it, Naruto became irritated with Sakura's yelling and said, "Will you listen for more than 2 seconds, Sakura? I'm waiting for them to land somewhere, so that I can take out Dodo in one final blow." Sakura, unsure of Naruto's possible strategy, questioned, "Huh? How do you plan on doing that? And what does them landing had to do with anything?" "Dodo can apparently fly with his chakra armor, so he grabbed Princess Koyuki and flew off. That's why Naruto is waiting for them to land." With the sealing tags of place within her clothes, Naruto's able to sense a small area around the seals. So once they've landed, Naruto will use his secret jutsu to deliver the finishing blow, as long as Princess Koyuki is close enough to Dodo anyway. "Sound about right, Naruto?" Kakashi responded, after discovering and clarifying Naruto's scheme to the other pupils. Naruto answered, "Hee hee, yup. You got it." Sakura, embarrassed by her doubts about Naruto, said, "Oh, sorry Naruto." Naruto answered, "Hey. No problem, Sakura." Kakashi uttered, "Naruto, here." When Naruto noticed Kakashi holding out what appeared to be a tiny crystal, he said, "Huh? What's this?" "This, Naruto, is the real hex crystal. I switched it out just after I placed those tags of yours in her clothes. Once Dodo realizes that the one Princess Koyuki has is a fake, then he'll undoubtedly come in close enough for you to take him out," Kakashi clarified. Naruto took the real hex crystal and put it in his pocket, saying, "I understand. He'll believe that she had deceived him, and he'll be too furious to react when I suddenly show up, and that eliminates the very slight possibility that he might dodge my attack. Hee hee, not like he would anyway." Nothing happened for several minutes. The film's director had inquired as to what the ninja were anticipating. Kakashi gave them the rundown on the strategy. Observing Naruto's abrupt response, Kakashi questioned, "What is it, Naruto?" They touched down. "Kakashi-sensei, it won't be long now," Naruto answered. "All right. Make it matter," Kakashi commanded. "All right." In response, Naruto made a Rasengan, dropped a smoke bomb, and vanished into the smoke. "He's close enough," Naruto said. "He's not there. What happened to him?" Astounded that someone could simply disappear in such a manner, I asked the director. "He went to the princess's aid. Before anything happens to her, only Naruto can reach her. With his secret jutsu, Naruto is the fastest person alive," Kakashi replied, oblivious to Sasuke's disapproving expression. Just a moment ago, Dodo and Koyuki after landing with Princess Koyuki, Dodo began to approach his niece and said, "Hand it over." He held out his hand. All right. Koyuki handed him the hex crystal and said, "Here." Dodo grabbed the crystal and took a close look at it, furious. "Is this a joke?" Crushing the fake crystal in his hand, Dodo screamed. "Don't act foolish around me. You gave me a phony." Dodo yelled and grabbed Koyuki by the jacket to interrupt her. Dodo and Koyuki were separated by a sudden flash of yellow. "You bastard, you damn right. It was a fake. Grab this." Rasengan, With a shout, Naruto slammed his jutsu into Dodo's face. This isn't possible. Where did this brat come from unexpectedly? Yugwa, were Dodo's final thoughts before his head and body fell off his shoulders. Ha! I win! Exclaimed Naruto triumphantly. Koyuki demanded an explanation, shouting, "What the hell? How the hell did you get here, Naruto? And why did you interfere?" "Oh, shut up. I would have beaten him earlier if you had just stayed hidden, because you decided to come out. I had to change my plans a bit." "Well, at least it looks like some of what I've said earlier seems to have finally sunk in, huh? Hee," said Naruto, sporting his signature grin. As Koyuki considered his meaning, he gasped. Koyuki thought, he's right. I guess I have more potential as a leader than I thought. I gave myself over, so that Naruto and all the others wouldn't get hurt more than they already were. But it was pointless. Naruto beat Dodo. It seems I'm just useless. Huh? Until something was placed on top of her head, interrupting her thoughts. After touching Princess Koyuki's head, Naruto remarked, "Hey. No point in feeling sorry for yourself, no. Besides, you finally showed that you can be a great leader for your country." Koyuki shouted, "And how would you know that, huh?" Naruto continued to smile and said, "Because you're actually crying on your own, instead of that fake crap you use." Koyuki reached up and touched her cheek to make sure Naruto's statement was accurate. She did indeed feel them. Sincere tears were streaming down her face. The tears that she had assumed had dried up had come back, and her once cold heart was beginning to feel warm again. Leaf Village. In the Hidden Leaf Village, it was almost time for sunset. Everything was calm until Naruto exclaimed, "Ah, finally home, yeah, after a protracted mission." For a few more weeks, Squad 7 stayed behind so Princess Koyuki could complete her film. There was a big festival during those few weeks. The return of the land's legitimate ruler to the throne was celebrated by all of the people in the Land of Snow. When the film was finally over, Princess Koyuki and Squad 7 bid each other farewell. But not before the princess gave Naruto an envelope just before they left. Sigh. As they entered the gates, Sakura said, "Honestly, Naruto, you don't have to yell." Naruto scratched the back of his neck and replied, Sorry, I'm just happy to be back in the village, no." Kakashi dismissed his team and said, "Okay, you two. Anyway, why don't you all go get some rest? I'll give Lady Hokage the report on our mission. Good job, you three." The three of them said, "Yes, Kakashi-sensei," and then left in separate directions. Sakura clearly followed Sasuke, but Naruto went off alone. Kakashi didn't overlook this detail. As he took out his book and considered the script that Princess Koyuki had been holding, Kakashi thought, Naruto usually follows after Sakura, even if it means following Sasuke. Wonder what's with the sudden change. However, he pushed the thought to the back of his mind. Sigh. With a perverted giggle, Kakashi thought, I can't wait until that movie comes out. A flat in Kurenai, she poured the tea for them both, and Kurenai said, "Something wrong, Hinata?" Hinata took a sip of her tea and answered, "I'm just worried about Naruto. I wonder if he's okay." Kurenai took a sip before continuing, saying, "I see. You shouldn't worry too much, Hinata. He does after all have his secret jutsu, just in case he runs into anything he can't handle. Then again, I doubt that with that jutsu of his anything could give him more than he can handle. Haha." Hinata took another sip and said, "I guess you're right. According to Hinata, I'm glad Naruto decided to trust you with that secret." "That's true. But it did seem that he trusted me a little too easily, at least as far as the reasons he gave me are concerned." "I know. But he must have just forgotten to mention the fact that you've been keeping our relationship a secret this entire time, even now that you do know his secret." From the right behind Hinata, a fresh voice said, You got a point there, Hinata." Hinata turned to face Naruto and exclaimed, Naruto?" With his signature smile, Naruto said, Yup. I'm back, and the mission was a success too." "Naruto!" exclaimed Hinata, clapping Naruto. The two fell to the ground as a result of said glomp. "Ouch. Heh. Laughs." With an inward laugh at the screen, Kurenai said, "Okay, you two lovebirds. Get up. Naruto, would you like some tea?" Naruto and Hinata stood up and sat down at the table, and Naruto replied, Heh. Sure. Thanks, Kurenai-sensei." Kurenai and Hinata poured Naruto a cup of tea and then started questioning him about his mission. Naruto overstayed some of his own achievements while responding to the questions he was able to. Kurenai and Hinata didn't mind too much, even though they knew he was doing this to make it sound more exciting. After Naruto concluded his story, Kurenai remarked, "Wow. So, your favorite actress was in fact a real princess after all. That's quite something." Naruto answered, "Yup. Hee hee." Hinata asked, "Did you get her autograph, Naruto?" "Huh? Oh, wait a second," Naruto said, recalling the envelope Princess Koyuki had given him. Kurenai inquired, "What do you have there, Naruto?" as if the envelope contained an autograph. Naruto took an item from the envelope. Naruto's eyes widened in surprise at whatever it was. Naruto put the picture on the table for the others to see and exclaimed, "Ah! Why did she have to use this picture? Couldn't she have at least used a better one?" "Oh." Kurenai and Hinata looked at the picture and saw what was on it. It was Princess Koyuki plus Squad 7. Sasuke's hands were in his pockets and his face was stoic. Sakura had a broad smile on her face and was hunched forward a little. Kakashi was just standing there grinning his eye smile, as usual. The majority of their attention was drawn to the scene involving Naruto and Princess Koyuki. Princess Koyuki was facing the camera from the left side. Her left hand was pressed against Naruto's right cheek as she knelt on his left side, level with him. Her lips were on Naruto's right cheek, and her eyes were closed. Naruto's expression was one of surprise, as if he hadn't anticipated it. They were nearly unable to speak. The first person to speak was Hinata. Hinata said, "Shish. Shike. Kissed you?" in a voice that made Naruto shudder. Yeah. I swear I would have told her, but our relationship is supposed to be a secret. It caught me off guard, otherwise I wouldn't have it that happen. I swear," Naruto said with a scream. He hoped she would accept his story. Giggle. Hinata began to start laughing uncontrollably at Naruto's expression on his face and in the photo, saying, "I know. I was just seeing how you'd act. Don't worry, Naruto. I know you would do what you said. Besides, the picture shows that you're telling the truth. If the priceless expression on your face is anything to go by." Kurenai and Naruto soon joined in the laughter. Kaharu informed Danzo about Squad 7's most recent mission, saying, "The report says that Naruto had an opportunity to defeat Dodo and took it, successfully decapitating Dodo with the Rasengan." Without displaying any emotion, Danzo answered, "I see. Danzo, Lord. The child is undoubtedly growing stronger, but we aren't getting the chance to make sure he is being trained correctly. What if the moment Nev Homura started, but Danzo cut him off. I've already given that possibility some thought. To be honest, I'm starting to lose patience. Therefore, we will simply create our own moment if it does not present itself. The success of an impending mission depends entirely on the 9 tails." "And, Lord Danzo, what is this scheme you have in mind?" Kaharu inquired. "I'll spare you the specifics. Simply wait and see. I have to go make preparations now. You're fired," Danzo declared as he stood up to begin his plan. Mission Hall. Where is Kakashi-sensei? I wonder? With his hands behind his head, Naruto posed the question. Tsunade entered the mission hall and said, "Kakashi won't be coming, he's been sent out on another mission." Sakura uttered, "Lady Hokage." Naruto uttered, "Grandma Tsunade. Will you please stop calling me that? In any case, only the 3 of you will be sent on this mission," Tsunade said as she took a seat and picked up a scroll. It goes without saying that Naruto is in command. "All right, Granny, let me do it," Naruto gave a thumbs up as he spoke. "Hopefully so. This mission is extremely important," Tsunade responded, glaring at Naruto, "the consequences of which are on your shoulders alone." Goo. R. Right. As she explained the specifics of this mission, Tsunade said, "Anyway, let's start the briefing." Land of Tea. A teenager a few years older approached Naruto and his teammates as they were taking a break in a tea house. The mission had been peaceful up until this point. The teenager remarked, "Gee, the life of a ninja seems pretty cozy." "What?" Naruto answered. "I heard you," the teenager said. "You leaf ninja don't give a damn," which really irritated Naruto. "Why you?" Naruto snarled and began to get to his feet. "Hello there." When the teenager saw Sakura, he said, "Of course, I didn't mean you." "What? Who am I?" Sakura inquired. "Listen, have you ever given any thought about our future?" the boy asked Sakura as he leaned on the table to continue his flirting. The teenager inquired. "What future?" The boy winked at Sakura and said, "You know, the one where you quit this ninja business and run away with me." "Ah, Sakura, are you going to strike this guy? Or ought I to?" Naruto shouted. "I was kidding, geez. But what I said about being a ninja wasn't," the teenager said, getting ready to go. "Slow down, Naruto." Sakura tried to soothe Naruto by saying, "You know, you're supposed to act like a chunin." Naruto was wearing the typical Chunin vest, and the teen paused in his step, looking behind him and realizing that what she had said was accurate. Yes, I am aware of that. Sheesh, said Naruto. The teen thought to himself, that kid? And turned around to go unnoticed. Is that child, who looks so foolish, Chunin? Not possible. A short while later. Hey, those fools will never catch me, thought the teen, as he suddenly tripped over a tree root. Oof. The teenager began to stand up and said, I have to be careful where I go. Naruto, who was obviously with Sasuke and Sakura, said from a branch just above the teenager, I wouldn't be worried about that right now, if I were you. Sasuke jumped down and said, all right, tell us why you left your bill here. The teenager saw no other option and chose to be dishonest. I apologize, I had no money at all. The teenager bowed his head and yelled. At that moment, a tiny object dropped and struck Naruto's head. Oh, what is this? Naruto leaned over to pick it up and asked. Avoid touching that. The teenager screamed as he picked up the item and got to his feet. Hey, what are you doing? Naruto asked, preparing for any unexpected movements. The teenager decided that he had no choice but to take off the leg weights he had been wearing. See ya, he said, dropping the weights, which caused a cloud of dirt to appear. The teen was gone as soon as the cloud of dirt vanished. A minute later. Huff. What? Puff. Is it now? As they stopped, Sakura asked. The group had been chasing the teen, but they couldn't catch up to him. Don't be concerned. While he was flirting with you, Sakura, I tagged the back of his cape. Naruto answered with a self-assured smirk. What? Did you? Why? Sakura asked, looking perplexed. I sensed that he would do something foolish. Anyway, Naruto said, I'll be right back, before he disappeared in a burst of yellow. With the teenager. Hey, it appears that I lost. W. Squad 7. What the heck? As he hit the ground, the teenager said, what happened? How did I return to this place? As he surveyed his surroundings, the teenager reflected, I've already run past this area, and that's where the ninja stopped chasing me. In addition, I'm surrounded by said ninja, unless you count getting sat on by one of them. Hee hee. Naruto sat on top of the older teen and said, unfortunately, you can't escape me that easily. How did you easily catch up to me? The teenager glared at Naruto as he asked. Hey, don't stress over the specifics. Would you mind tying up Sasuke for me? As he started tying the older teen, Naruto inquired. Yes, but what's the strategy with this individual? As he assisted Naruto, Sasuke inquired. We're meant to meet up with Boss Jirocho in the closest town, correct? Naruto asked, glancing at Sakura for confirmation, but none of the Squad 7 members noticed the teenager's eyes slightly widen. Yes, it is. Why? Sakura inquired, unsure of the direction of this. All right. Naruto lifted the teenager to his feet and explained, we'll have this guy turned into the proper authorities after we meet Boss Jirocho. Now. As he assisted Naruto in lifting the teenager, Sasuke remarked, not a bad idea. The office of Boss Jirocho. I understand. I apologize for the trouble Idate has caused you, Jirocho said. When Naruto and the other members of Squad 7 arrived at Boss Jirocho's house, they were met by a Wasabi family member, and to their astonishment, they were told that the teenager, Idate, was in fact a member of the Wasabi family. Yes, of course. No problem, I guess, Sakura said, unsure of how to interpret the situation. I'm grateful. Would you kindly leave us now? I need to talk to Idate, Jirocho said. No issue, boss. With his customary zeal in his voice, Naruto answered. After they left the office, Jirocho turned to face Idate. Idate. Jirocho said, his disappointment clearly audible. Yeah, boss? Idate answered, apprehensive about the potential consequences of his most recent mischievous behavior. Please correct me if I'm mistaken. However, I think I requested that you give up these thieving habits when I took you in. Did I not? Jirocho asked. Idate bowed his head and replied, yes, you did. So why? Why did you pin your bill to the ninja instead of paying it? With a severe expression on his face, Jirocho inquired. Idate did not respond and remained silent. Sigh. I know you're not a fan of ninja. Please be patient. I have never questioned why that is the case. Okay. There was a pause, and then Idate said, yes sir. In the woodland. Hey. Where are you heading? Squad 7 had been pursuing Idate since the beginning of the race in Port Dagarashi, but Idate chose to run into the nearby forest rather than take the boat to the next island, so Naruto yelled. You have no business about it. As he kept running, Idate answered, why don't you just leave me alone? He soon found Naruto running directly behind him, but neither of them saw the genjutsu's double layers. The first had been picked up by Idate, but not the second. Consequently, Idate and Naruto both fell off the side of the mountain they were running on. Fortunately, Sasuke's action of catching them with a rope saved them. Sigh. Naruto said, "That was close." Then Naruto sees something falling. Naruto cried, "Oh! My ninja tools!" As he and Idate were being hauled up, Naruto sighed and thought, "At least I still have my trench knives and my gauntlets. I'll just have to get my weapons later." On the boat everything appeared to be going well since the forest. But just in case, Squad 7 remained vigilant. Squad 7 learned during the boat ride that Idate was originally a Leaf Village genin. Additionally, Ibiki was the older brother of that Idate. Hearing that his brother was still alive and well gave Idate great relief. But the moment was cut short when an arrow struck the boat's rail. Sasuke turned around and saw another boat, saying, "What the?" Rain Ninja started to board the ship shortly after that. When Sasuke used his Sharingan, he noticed that only one of them was genuine. Sasuke informed his teammates, shouting, "Naruto! Sakura, be careful, one of them isn't a clone." "Right," Sakura and Naruto said. Naruto punched through another clone and commanded, "We gotta keep them away from Idate." Sasuke resorted to the assurance that, "We know," while pursuing the real one. Sasuke had engaged the actual Rain Ninja in combat, ultimately forcing the adversary to flee by plunging overboard. Naruto shouted, "Sasuke!" They turned into water clones to ensure the other person understood that the threat was still present. Sasuke said, "I know, be careful." Naruto shouted, "No shit, Sasuke." Little black puddles appeared on the deck as the rain suddenly began to fall. The only person who noticed this was Sakura, who quickly discovered that the rain was actually oil. Sakura then shouted after noticing that Sasuke had begun to make hand signs. "Sasuke! No, there is oil all over the place." Sakura warned him, and Sasuke instantly stopped making hand signals. Sigh. Sakura said, to one individual in particular, that was close. Sakura then noticed that one of the ninja was carefully aiming while holding something in his hands. She realized what they were planning when she saw that one of his friends had set the object on fire. Sakura yelled at her teammates, "Watch out! They're planning on lighting the boat on fire." Naruto shouted, "I'm on it," while forming the hand sign for his second favorite jutsu. Shadow. Clone Jutsu, having produced 9 clones, 10 Narutos in all. Pulling out one of his trench knives and wielding it like a sword, the real Naruto dashed to the rear of the boat. Naruto leapt off the back railing and focused his wind chakra into his blade upon realizing it was a flaming arrow. Naruto swung his trench knife and yelled, "Back off, you assholes!" The arrow was easily split in two by the wind extended blade, which kept their boat safe. But then Naruto's wind blade ignited. Instead, a huge fire blade was produced. Naruto continued to swing and struck the enemy boat. This led to 2 outcomes. 1. The boat eventually sank as a result of the front end being split vertically in 2. 2. Light the boat ablaze. Alright. Jutsu Shadow. Clone. Naruto had it seize his arm and throw him back toward their boat, creating another shadow clone. As Naruto landed, Sakura remarked, "Good job, Naruto." Naruto put his right hand behind his head and said, "Hee hee. Thanks, Sakura." Naruto pulled his hand back down and exclaimed, "Ouch." Sakura gently took Naruto's hand and said, "Naruto, are you okay?" Sakura saw that Naruto's hand was burned as she held his still armed hand. Sakura said, taking off the glove and weapon, "Naruto, you got 1st to 2nd degree burns." Naruto put his uninjured hand behind his head and said, "Ouch, yay, I kinda figured I'd get burned if I did that, heh." Sakura screamed, "You did?" and struck him in the head. "If you knew that would happen, then why'd you do it, you idiot?" Naruto held his head up and said, "Ouch, Sakura, I did it so the boat wouldn't get burned and then sink. Ooh." Feeling embarrassed, Sakura said, "Oh, sorry, Naruto." Naruto said, "It's okay, just don't hit me again." Rig. Kaboom. The boat's left side was struck by an explosion. Squad 7 was forced to give up their mode of transportation as the boat started to sink. Idate was certain that they were merely attempting to save themselves, so Naruto told her to continue. To get him to move, I had Naruto strike him over the head with his burned hand. In a cave after giving Idate a head start, Squad 7 was able to exit the boat without incident. The Rain Ninja pulled Squad 7 underwater while they were traveling to the shore. Naruto's quick thinking and use of his shadow clones allowed him to defeat the Rain Ninja. They hurried to the shore to aid Idate, who was under attack from another rain ninja they had not yet come across. Regretfully, the ninja was avoiding contact. In doing so, the ninja's poisonous needles defeated Squad 7. Since then, Squad 7 and Idate had been sleeping in a cave because Sakura had received the antidote from Tsunade prior to their departure from the gate. Idate described the ninja to them while they were sleeping. Aoi Rokusho was a renegade ninja who joined the Rain Village after defecting from the Leaf Village. He had been duped by Aoi into bringing him the Sword of the Thunder Spirit and a secret scroll. Aoi had only then clarified that Idate could turn into a Chunin, but only in the Hidden Rain. Eventually, Idate told them how he met Boss Jirocho and how he was the only Ni in the Wasabi family to believe in him. Regretfully, Idate had lost confidence in himself as a result of the reunion with Aoi. Naruto, however, would not allow Idate to give up. He told Idate that all he needed was one person to believe in him. Idate reached the top of the Spirit Breaker steps with Naruto's assistance. Idate started running as soon as he reached the top so he could complete the remaining portion of the race on his own. Drawbridge at last, Idate had made it to the drawbridge, which he had to cross to reach the finish line. As he approached the bridge, Aoi materialized out of nowhere and used the Sword of the Thunder Spirit to knock him to the ground. "You just don't know when to give up, do you, Idate?" asked Aoi. Idate grinned and said, not bad, too bad for you, that I'm not Idate." Perplexed by Idate's words, Aoi questioned, "What are you talking about?" Before vanishing in a poof of smoke, Idate said, "HNHN. You mentioned earlier that you're a Junin, but you can't detect a simple transformation jutsu." Looking into one of the Leaf Ninja's dark eyes, Aoi said, "I see. So you're indeed not Idate. But don't think that you can take me. Especially when I wield the Sword of the Thunder Spirit." As he used his Sharingan and said jutsu, Sasuke said, "Hey, interesting. Your Sword of the Thunder Spirit against my Chidori." The two Nina sprang at one another. Cutting through Sasuke's Chidori, Aoi mockingly remarked, "I've always heard that the last Uchiha was a talentless brat, unworthy of his family name." Trees nearby. "Oh no. He needs our help." Naruto pointed to the battlefield to demonstrate his point, saying, "He's fine, Sakura. It'll take more than that to take him out." Idate was eager to get started and asked, "When do we make a break for it, Naruto?" Naruto responded, "Preparing to enter the battle, if you can slip by without being caught, then I can help Sasuke. Sakura, I need you to go with Idate. Just in case." Sakura said as she followed Idate toward the bridge, "Okay, come on, Idate." Aoi and Sasuke got back up and said, "Take it back." Able to stand back up, you should have just stayed down," Aoi replied. Reactivating his Chidori, Sasuke screamed, "I said, take it back." Sasuke unleashed his full power, Chidori, charge. Thunder and lightning clashed, defeating Sasuke's jutsu once more. But not before making a fissure in the blade of the sword. Unfortunately, Sasuke got caught in the current of the sword. Aoi took advantage of this and hurled Sasuke over the edge of the precipice. He saw two figures running across the bridge after he was certain Sasuke was defeated. "No, it can't be!" exclaimed Aoi as he dashed to cut the bridge's ropes. Fortunately for Idate, Naruto showed up to block the bridge's approach. Aoi shouted, "Get out of the way," and swung his sword. Naruto yelled, "Not a chance," as he used his wind-charged trench knife to block the sword. "What? Impossible. Not when wind beats lightning, asshole." Idate and Sakura were able to cross the bridge after that altercation. Furious at being stopped by a useless leaf chunin, Aoi yelled, "Damn you. You'll pay for that, you bastard." A short while ago with Sasuke. When Sasuke became entangled in the electrical current of the Sword of the Thunder Spirit, he lost consciousness. There was a flash of yellow as he fell toward the whirlpool at the bottom of the ravine. Naruto grabbed Sasuke and said, "I gotcha, Sasuke." After securing him, Naruto took out a tagged kunai and hurled it in the direction of a sizable ledge on the cliff. Naruto and an unconscious Sasuke were on the ledge with another yellow flash. "Don't worry, Sasuke. Once the boss beats that bastard, we'll get you some help." Aoi and Naruto were still at odds. Despite Aoi's efforts, Naruto had not conceded any ground. "Alright. Even if you can block the Sword of the Thunder Spirit, I'm still a Junin. And you're just a lousy Chunin, who just got lucky to even get that promotion," Aoi replied. "Hey, really? 'Cause the way I see it, that's the best trick you've got. And I got another trick up my sleeve that'll beat you in that sword, believe it," taunted Naruto. Aoi retorted, sprinting in Naruto's direction, "Is that so? Then try it, you little bastard." Naruto waited until the perfect moment, grinning. He spoke as always, swung his sword down. Where's your big talk now, huh? Naruto swung his arm, quickly focusing chakra on his left gauntlet. As a result, an arm with a dark blue hilt flew and landed 10 feet from the ground. Aoi barely had time to let out a painful scream before his head hit the floor. As he reached for the sword of the Thunder Spirit, Naruto said, "Hey. Told ya. Now, time to grab that sword, Sasuke, and get to the finish line." Naruto vanished with a flash of yellow after putting the sword in his weapons pouch. Sasuke Naruto threw aside his shadow. Clone, flashing yellow. Naruto addressed an unconscious Sasuke, saying, "All right. Give me a moment to see Sakura's surroundings, and we can get you some help." After determining Sakura's location and confirming that she was out of sight, Naruto seized Sasuke and vanished in a yellow flash once more. On the boat, the mission was completed successfully. The race was won by Idate, who had overtaken Fubuki. However, the minister of the feudal lord had tried to disqualify Idate because he had submitted a picture of himself being carried by Naruto. With a picture of his own, the feudal lord overruled that. The image demonstrated that the Wagarashi family had been bribing the minister. As a result, the minister was compelled to step down. Idate and his older brother Ibiki briefly reconnected after the boat arrived. Sasuke had been thinking about his battle with that traitorous rain ninja, Aoi Rokusho, while Naruto was shouting his goodbyes. I wasn't able to beat him, but Naruto was. Squad 7 had just returned from their mission in the Land of Tea, and it was still early in the morning. As soon as they entered the Hidden Leaf Gates, Sasuke was taken to the hospital. Naruto and Sakura were on their way to deliver their mission report to the Hokage at his mansion. Sakura had a worried expression on her face when Naruto turned to look at her. Naruto said, "Hey, Sakura." Sakura looked at Naruto and said, "Huh? What is it, Naruto?" Naruto answered, "Are you okay? I mean, you look worried." I'm not worried. Why do you think I'm worried?" Sakura told the truth. Not believing Sakura's lie, Naruto retorted, "Well, you've been looking at the ground ever since Sasuke was taken to the hospital." "Sorry, I know I shouldn't be worried, but his injuries didn't seem bad enough for him to go to the hospital." "Huh. I guess you got a point, Sakura, but we don't know anything about medical stuff." Sakura answered, glancing back at the floor. "Yay, I guess so." In an attempt to reassure Sakura, Naruto said, "Well, if you're that worried about it, why don't you go and check up on Sasuke? I can take care of the report." "Really? Are you sure?" Sakura asked, her head rising so quickly that Naruto nearly thought it would fall off. With his signature grin on his face and a scratch on the back of his head, Naruto answered, "Yay, it's no problem, I got it." Sakura exclaimed, "Thank you, Naruto," before rushing to the hospital. Naruto shouted, "You're welcome," as Sakura turned the next corner. Hokage Mansion. Knock, knock. Tsunade heard a knock on her door and said, "Enter." "Hey, Grandma," Naruto exclaimed as he walked into the Hokage's office. Tsunade screamed, "Stop calling me that, brat," in reaction to Naruto's tirade. Hee. When Tsunade noticed Naruto was by himself, she inquired, "Where's Sakura? I know that she wasn't injured, was she?" With a dejected expression on his face, Naruto replied, "Oh, I let her go visit Sasuke at the hospital." Tsunade changed the subject and said, "I see. I understand that your mission was a success." Naruto replied, looking back up with a broad smile, "Yay, but we had some trouble with a rogue leaf ninja." With a perplexed expression, Tsunade questioned, "A rogue leaf ninja?" His name's Aoi Rokusho. After he left the village, he became a Junin for the Hidden Rain village. Tsunade heaved a heavy sigh and said, "So I've heard. And he had the sword of the Thunder Spirit with him when he did." "Yay, I know. Sasuke fought him while he wielded that thing. That's how he got hurt. I managed to save Sasuke with a shadow clone while I fought Aoi. I started out by keeping him away from the bridge so that Idate could catch up and win the race. Once he was across, I tried to take him out. After a few minutes, I managed to get a killing blow. That's how I got this," Naruto clarified, as he pulled out what appeared like a sword's hilt. Tsunade asked, her eyes widening, Is that?" Naruto gave Tsunade the hilt and replied, "Yep. It's the sword of the Thunder Spirit." Tsunade channeled her chakra into the hilt after stealing it from Naruto. A yellow blade emerged after activation. Tsunade examined the edge. Although she was certain that it was her great uncle's sword, she still wanted to ensure that it was in good condition. Although it was found to be intact, there was a crack approximately 4 inches above the hilt. Tsunade grinned broadly and said, "Thank you for returning my great uncle's sword to me in the village." With a sheepish grin and a hand behind his head, Naruto said, "No problem. I'm sorry about the crack. I was trying not to break it with me, wind, chakra." Tsunade said, "I see. How'd it get cracked in the first place?" Naruto answered, "I believe it was Sasuke's Chidori." Tsunade said, "I see. Well, that shouldn't be a problem." Tsunade clarified after noticing Naruto's perplexed expression. The blade is made of lightning chakra, yet one doesn't need lightning chakra to wield this sword. Should it crack or break, one needs a very precise chakra control over their lightning chakra. Give it some time and this sword will be as good as new. "No way. Seriously? That's awesome," exclaimed Naruto, enthusiastic about the blade's repair. "That it is. Now, I need you to start from the beginning of your mission. Then I'll take a look at that right hand of yours." Naruto said, "Yes ma'am," and then went on to describe the mission's specifics. Hokage Monument. The Hidden Leaf Village was on the verge of sunset. As usual, Naruto and Hinata were wrapping up their date in the same manner, perched on the head of the fourth Hokage, watching the sunset. As she leaned back in Naruto's arms and listened to his now completed story about his most recent mission, Hinata exclaimed, "That's amazing, Naruto." Naruto smiled at his girlfriend and said, "Heh. I know, right?" Naruto asked more gravely, "So, how's the training?" Sigh. Hinata answered in a worn-out voice, "It's very difficult, but I'm not sure if I've been making any progress." "Come on, Hinata. You're training like crazy. I know you're making progress. You gotta have more faith in yourself, okay?" I'll try." Naruto turned Hinata's face toward his left hand on her right cheek and said, "No Hinata, repeat after me." "Huh? Repeat after me. Okay. Oh, okay." Naruto started, "I." Hinata reiterated, "I will have more, have more faith. Finally, Naruto said, "In myself." Hinata said, "In myself." Again. "Now, put it all together." Hinata blushed slightly as she said, I will have more faith in myself." Naruto kissed Hinata's lips and said, "There, see? Was that so hard?" Hinata kissed him once more and replied, "No, it was easy to say." With the sun finally setting, Naruto remarked, "Heh. Sigh. I guess it's getting time to take you back." Hinata sigh, ed and turned to face the horizon before responding, "Yay, I guess so." In the village wearing his typical disguise, Naruto said, "We're here. Good night, Hina." In her typical disguise, Hinata answered, "Yay, good night, hero." Hinata entered the apartment complex after giving him their customary good night kiss. She shut the door of her sensei's apartment and heard Kurenai ask the typical question that follows a romantic evening. "So, how was it?" Hospital roof. The following day today, Sakura paid Sasuke another visit. She had been peeling the apples when she arrived this time. Sakura was concerned because Sasuke had not spoken since the mission. However, Sakura chose not to display it. Sakura simply kept peeling apples while attempting to strike up a conversation. Everything changed when Naruto finally entered the room. Naruto was challenged to a fight by Sasuke. Naruto attempted to explain to Sasuke that since he was still hospitalized, this was not a good idea. But Sasuke refused to accept it. After provoking Naruto finally gave in. After telling Naruto to follow him, Sasuke walked off in the direction of the roof. Now they were on the roof, prepared to fight. After hearing Naruto laugh, Sasuke questioned, "What's so funny?" Naruto smiled and said, "I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm excited because I know that today is the day that I'll finally beat you." Sasuke, growing increasingly agitated with Naruto, exclaimed, "Tisk. You are so arrogant. Let's do this. Put on your headband, and we will." "There's no reason to put it on. You won't even put a scratch on my forehead." "That's not the point. The headband symbolized that we're fighting on equal terms as a leaf shinobi." "There you go again, acting all high and mighty. You honestly think we're equals?" "Heck yay, I do." Sasuke charged at Naruto, saying, "Enough. Let's get this over with." At the moment, Naruto was pursuing Sasuke through the forest close to the Land of Fire's edge. Naruto was unable to comprehend it. Without his secret jutsu, Naruto had been able to hold his own against Sasuke. Naruto didn't want his smoke bombs or the flashes from his jutsu to draw too much attention. The battle ended when Kakashi stepped in and stopped them before they could use their last jutsu on one another. Rewind. Naruto was on his way home as the sun was about to set. Naruto was thinking about the altercation he had with Sasuke earlier. When he realized he was getting close to home, he looked up to see Sakura waiting for him. Sakura gestured for Naruto to follow him, saying, "I need to talk to you, Naruto. So, if you want that date you've always wanted, you'll shut up and listen." As he followed Sakura, Naruto thought, "Crap, I never expected Sakura to ask me for a date. Oh man, I got no choice but to go along. Hopefully, this won't go on any further than this." Sakura had visited Ichiraku's ramen with Naruto. Sakura told Naruto everything that transpired during the second stage of the Chunin exams, after he lost consciousness while he was there. She also told him that she thought Sasuke's attitude was being caused by the curse mark on his neck. The following day, Hidden Leaf Gate early the following morning, Shikamaru and Naruto were summoned to the Hokage's office. Sasuke had defected to the Hidden Sound Village, and by extension, Orochimaru, Tsunade had told them. Shikamaru and Naruto were both shocked by what they had just heard. Shikamaru and Naruto were finally told to form a team and depart in 30 minutes. Naruto would be second in command, but Shikamaru was put in charge by Tsunade because of his high intelligence. The group of Naruto, Neji, Choji, Kiba, and Shikamaru arrived at the Hidden Leaf Gate 30 minutes later. The lineup for their pursuit was devised by Shikamaru. Kiba with Akamaru, Shikamaru, Naruto, Choji, and Neji were in order from front to back. Just as they were ready to leave the village, Sakura appeared. Sakura had begged Naruto to grant her lifelong wish. She requested that he return her Sasuke to her. Naturally, Naruto couldn't allow a friend to appear so depressed. He thus pledged to go to any lengths. They then departed to find Sasuke. Flashback termination. Thanks for all your help, Choji, Neji, Kiba and Akamaru, Shikamaru and Bushy Brow. Just hold on, I'll bring that jerk back, Naruto thought as he finally caught up to Sasuke. "Sasuke!" shouted Naruto. Standing atop a massive statue at the opposite end of the valley, Sasuke came to a halt. Sasuke turned slowly and said, "Oh, it's you." Naruto had been shocked to see Sasuke's face. Sasuke's face was marked in black, and his left eye appeared to be golden. Naruto tried to speak with Sasuke, ignoring his appearance. "Sasuke, what do you think you're doing? Why are you going to Orochimaru?" "What's it to you? My days playing ninja with you kids in the leaf are through," replied Sasuke. Anger at Sasuke's behavior, Naruto screamed, "What? You mean to tell me that Choji, Neji, Kiba, and Shikamaru all risked their lives for nothing?" As he started to turn around, Sasuke said, "Did they now? How thoughtful. Go home, Naruto. That village can't help me get stronger." Naruto leaps across the valley and throws Sasuke to the ground. Naruto turned him over, grabbed his shirt, and went on. "Are you crazy? Orochimaru killed the third Hokage and tried to destroy the village. You think he's going to give you any power for free? He just wants to wear your body like a new set of clothes. The bastard is a traitor to the village. And you want to get power from him, when he got most of his power from the Leaf Village," Naruto yelled prior to punching Sasuke. Before responding, Sasuke simply spat some blood in Naruto's face. Sasuke took Naruto by the collar of his orange jumpsuit and started to raise him up, saying, "If it's to kill Itachi, then I'll give up anything." In an attempt to get Sasuke to release his grip, Naruto put a hand on his, but it was unsuccessful. Naruto therefore made do with the next best thing. After Sasuke stood up, he released Naruto and punched Naruto in the stomach with the same hand. The statue launched Naruto into the water, which ultimately brought him to the waterfall. As he surfaced again, Naruto thought, what the hell? Since when could he punch that hard? Ow. It doesn't matter. I'll have no choice but to stop him by force." Sasuke looked down at Naruto and said, "There you are. Do you get it yet? I've been asleep the whole time I've been in the village, but thanks to Orochimaru, I'm wide awake. Still, Naruto has that jutsu. Luckily, he needs a tag or a tagged kunai to use it on me. Hey, it's a good thing I made extra sure not to have that tag on me. But I still have to keep my distance, just in case he's able to sneak one of those tags on me," Sasuke thought as he started making hand signs. Slashing out at Naruto with his most powerful, fire, jutsu. Sasuke exclaimed, "Fire style. Dragon Flame Jutsu." Naruto dove into the water, knowing that using his wind jutsu would be too risky. Sasuke weaved more hand signs and said, "Not bad, diving underwater. Too bad you won't be coming back up." Another minute passed, and Naruto's breath was coming in short gasps. As he prepared his Rasengan, Naruto thought, "Shit, I've got no choice, otherwise I'll drown." Just as Sasuke was practicing hand signs for his upcoming jutsu, a yellow flash flashed directly in front of him. Naruto shouted, "Rasengan!" and slammed his jutsu into Sasuke's abdomen. After that, Sasuke was launched into the air, flying over the statue's side and down toward the waterfall's base. "Hey, got him." Sasuke was shocked when Naruto used his flying Raijin jutsu to strike him, using a jutsu he had only seen during their battle on the hospital roof. Sasuke landed in the water with a loud splash, and thought, "Damn it. That's impossible. How'd Naruto manage to use that jutsu? I know for a fact that he didn't tag me, and I didn't even bring my weapons pouch with me. So how did he do it? Damn, that hurt. I can't move. I've got no choice but to use my curse mark." Naruto approached the statue's edge and peered down at Sasuke. As he waited for Sasuke to return, Naruto muttered to himself, "Come on. I doubt that's enough to take you out." Sasuke finally resurfaced. This time, however, his skin was covered in black markings. Naruto could see the look of intense anger on his face. "Naruto, I'm going to kill you for that," Sasuke screamed, closely observing Naruto with his Sharingan now activated. With another yellow flash, Naruto vanished. "Bring it on, that Sharingan and curse mark won't help you, and you'll regret leaving the village," Naruto cried. As soon as another yellow flash appeared directly in front of Sasuke, he was punched in the face. Sasuke skidded on top of the water and attempted to get to his feet. Unfortunately, Sasuke was forced to submerge after taking another punch to the gut. Resurfacing, Sasuke thought, damn it. My Sharingan can't keep up with him." As Sasuke's head emerged above the water, Naruto questioned, "Had enough yet?" Sasuke eventually got back up, and Naruto continued, "Just give up and come back to the village. You can't beat me." "Don't get too cocky. I still haven't been going all out, and it's you who can't beat me," replied Sasuke. Naruto saw a shift in Sasuke's eyes at that precise moment. There were now 3 commas in each eye instead of the previous 2. Naruto responded as he launched another attack, "Then prove it." The change in his eyes was palpable to Sasuke. He thought he would be able to see even a small movement with it. However, that theory was disproved when he was struck again and saw only a yellow flash. As he got to his feet once more, Sasuke thought, not again. Since when does he not need a seal to use that jutsu?" Naruto repaired another Rasengan and said, "Give up, Sasuke. I told you, you can't win. Keep fighting and I'll have to really start hurting you." Sasuke started, then bridge, arg, and then collapsed to his knees, coughing up blood. "Not again, not now. Sigh. I've got no choice but to use stage 2, Sasuke was thinking. "Looks like you can't fight anymore, Sasuke. Give up now, and then we can go back to the village and get you looked at. The more you fight, the more you'll get who." Sasuke shouted, "Shut up. I haven't fallen so low that I need you to worry about me," as he cut Naruto off. With his jutsu still in hand, Naruto retorted, "You're right. You've fallen even lower than that. Going to a traitor for power. I never thought you could have fallen so low." With his gaze fixed on Naruto, Sasuke questioned, "Why? Why are you going so far for me?" Naruto answered, glancing down at the water for a moment, "Because, to me you're like a brother. That's why I can't let someone like Orochimaru get their hands on you. That's why I'll do whatever it takes, even if I have to break every bone in your body." Sasuke exclaimed, "A brother, That's a powerful bond. If that's the case, I'll just have to sever that bond." As the black markings started to glow red and overlapped all of his skin. He was barely recognizable to Naruto after the glowing subsided. Actually, if this hadn't occurred directly in front of him, he would have been duped. With a black 4-point star on the bridge of his nose, Sasuke's skin had turned dark gray. Now that his eye whites were completely black, the Sharingan was able to pop out even more. Surprised by this change, Naruto questioned, "Sasuke? What's happened to you?" With an assured smirk, Sasuke questioned, "I've strengthened, Naruto. Do you still think you can win?" Almost instantly, Sasuke took another Rasengan to the gut, and he was answered. As he crashed onto the riverbank, Sasuke thought, "What the? Damn it, I forgot about that." Naruto approached Sasuke and said, "It doesn't matter if you've gotten stronger, Sasuke. It means nothing if you can't see your opponent's movements." As he stooped and grew wings that resembled enormous hands, Sasuke exclaimed, How are you using that jutsu without a sealing tag?" and took off. Before he responded, Naruto saw Sasuke take to the air. "Remember when you grabbed me by the collar, and I tried to pry your hand off?" replied Naruto. Naruto went on as Sasuke gave him a curious glance. "Since I couldn't get you to let go, I settled for the next best thing. You've only ever seen me use the flying Raijin jutsu with a sealing tag, whether it was attached to a kunai or not, or if my weapons had the seal etched onto the weapons. When Sasuke finally understood, he looked at his hand. However, he saw nothing there. The said individual continued, glancing at Naruto once more. Naruto concluded by forming several shadow clones, each of which formed the Rasengan. I can place a seal on anything and anyone. The seal only appears where I placed it, and only when it's about to be put to use. At first I was inexperienced, so the seal was only temporary. Now, the seal is permanent. Gazing back at his hand, Sasuke's eyes grew wide. As Naruto had predicted, the seal had indeed materialized. As he and his clones prepared to attack, Naruto made a warning. Last chance, Sasuke. Give up, or I'll beat you till you can't move. Sasuke, furious that he was at a loss, defied logic and created his own jutsu. The Chidori. This was not the one he usually used. Curse mark, influence caused the jutsu to turn black. Arming his black Chidori, Sasuke screamed, "Just try it, loser." Naruto shouted, "Okay, you asked for it, flying Raijin, Rasengan barrage," and launched his assault. The shadow clones appeared and vanished one by one before slamming their jutsu into Sasuke. If they struck the abdomen, arms, legs, or even the wings, it made no difference. Sasuke would be flung from one side of the valley to the other after each blow, only to be struck by the subsequent shadow clone. In the end, only the authentic Naruto remained. The final shadow clone sent Sasuke straight to him. Sasuke managed to remain conscious during the entire attack. Sasuke thought all the time. Sasuke's final thoughts as he passed out from Naruto's final blow in the barrage were, "Impossible. How can this loser beat me? An Uchiha?" Sasuke had Naruto standing beside him. He had been headed toward the Leaf Village after that last attack. A hand seized Sasuke's wrist as Naruto knelt down to pick him up out of concern that he might not return to the village alive. Naruto noticed his sensei, Kakashi Hitaki, and went to see who owned the hand. Kakashi sensei. Kakashi released Naruto's hand and picked up Sasuke, saying, "It's okay, Naruto. I know you're tired, so I'll carry him back to the village. Let's hurry." "Right," was Naruto's response. With that in mind, they both began climbing the cliff toward the Leaf Village. After 2 minutes, Final Valley, the white half of an Akatsuki cloaked, plant-like figure said, "To think that child possessed such a powerful jutsu. Indeed. He defeated the Uchiha boy without the 9 tails chakra. Truly a worthy prize of our organization," replied the black half. White half said, "We have to tell the other members about this battle." Hidden Leaf Medical Center Shizune shouted, "Lady Tsunade," drawing the attention of everyone in the corridor. Tsunade had just left the operating room, which contained one Choji Akamichi. "What is it?" inquired Tsunade. "Neji Hyuga's condition is stable. There is no longer a threat to his life. I also have news of the other members of the team sent to retrieve Sasuke Uchiha. Kiba Inuzuka has suffered serious injuries, but are not life-threatening. Naruto Uzumaki and Kakashi Hitaki have just returned. Naruto's injuries appear to be minimal at worst. Sasuke Uchiha, however, is seriously wounded and is being treated as we speak," said Shizune, completing her update on everyone's whereabouts. "Very well. Go attend to Sasuke Uchiha. I'll be with you shortly to take over." Tsunade gave the order. Shizune answered, "Yes, Lady Tsunade," and then followed her instructions. Tsunade walked after Shizune and said, "It looks like everyone from the team is still alive, and you succeeded in your mission. Congratulations, Shikamaru." By now, Shikamaru had begun to cry. He was happy that the mission had been successful, but he was even happier that no one had died. With more tears in his eyes, Shikamaru answered, Sob. "Thank you, Lady Sob." Tsunade. The following day, Sakura and Ino arrived at the reception desk to see how their teammate was doing. Ino said, "Going to check on Naruto?" Sakura answered, "Yay, and Sasuke too, if he's in." The receptionist said, "Naruto Uzumaki hasn't been admitted, I'm afraid." "Huh? Why not?" Sakura said, her expression bewildered. "He only had a fist-sized bruise around his stomach area, so there was no need to hold him here," replied the nurse. Gasp. Sigh. "What about Sasuke? He is in room 306. He's somehow stable, despite the injuries he received." Sakura shouted, "Thank you," from the other end of the hallway. When Sakura and Ino heard what room he was in, they stopped listening. Instead, As soon as they heard the room number, they took off running. You're welcome. Around room 306. Tsunade was discussing Sasuke's future with Naruto. She stopped when she heard Naruto and Tsunade coming into the room. Lady Tsunade. Looking at who called me, Tsunade said, Sakura, Ino, here to visit Sasuke I see. Sakura and Ino both said, yes ma'am, is he alright? At the same time. Tsunade said, alright, then, come on in, but be quiet, he's not awake. And Anbu said, but, Lady Tsunade, up until now, no one had taken notice. Tsunade opened the door and let everyone in, saying, it's okay, cat. As the door was being shut, Ino said, what's with the Anbu, Lady Tsunade? Tsunade pointed to the bed where Sasuke was sleeping and said, precautions, just in case Sasuke or anyone attempts to aid Sasuke in leaving the village again. 5 minutes later. On either side of Sasuke's bed, Sakura and Ino were seated. Sasuke's health and life circumstances were described to them by Tsunade. Sasuke would be executed if he didn't have a lot of luck, or imprisoned for a long time. Naturally, Naruto had opposed both options right away. Tsunade informed him that his words might have some influence on Sasuke's ultimate decision because he was an acting chunin on the squad. Naruto declared that he would stop at nothing to spare Sasuke from either of those penalties. The room eventually fell silent. The silence was broken by Sakura. Naruto, she started there. Huh? Yay, Sakura, exclaimed Naruto, to which Sakura replied, thank you. Huh? With tears streaming down her cheeks, Sakura said, thank you for bringing Sasuke back. I had faith that you'd bring Sasuke back, and I'm truly grateful that you did. No problem, Sakura. I'm sorry I had to beat him up so bad though. It's fine. Lady Tsunade said he'll make a full recovery in time. Knock knock. Who is it? Inquired Tsunade. Shizun's voice was heard from behind the door. It's me, Shizun. Yes, Tsunade said loudly. Tsunade said, come in. After Shizun had shut the door. What is it, Shizun? You, Naruto and Lord Jiraiya have been requested to a meeting with the village elders, in the council chambers. I've already sent word for Lord Jiraiya. Shizun responded. Sigh. Tsunade started to move toward the door, saying, okay, everyone, go out. Naruto, you're coming with me. In the chambers of the council within the chamber were Tsunade, Naruto, Kaharu, Homura, and Danzo. In order to start the meeting, they were presently awaiting Jiraiya. Naruto was instructed to take a seat in a chair in the center of the room after Tsunade and he had entered. Once Lord Jiraiya has come, everything will be made clear, the elders said in response to Tsunade's question about the purpose of this. Tsunade was obviously not happy with the direction this was taking. Tsunade was about to lose patience when Jiraiya entered through the open door. After he shut the door, Jiraiya said, I apologize for being late, but I almost put an Anbu in the hospital for interfering with my research. Tsunade ignored Jiraiya's words and said, it's about time you're here, Jiraiya. Now, what's all this about? Danzo said, allow me, princess. He went on after he had everyone's attention. We're here because, we, as in your advisors and I, believe that one Naruto Uzumaki has grown to be too powerful, and must be removed from the shinobi program, immediately. There was a brief pause before Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Naruto all responded at once. What? What the hell are you idiots talking about? Naruto has undergone training under both myself and Kakashi. Besides, there have been shinobi in this village that were stronger than Naruto was at the same age, all the previous Hokage. Myself and Kakashi are all proof of that. Jiraiya was enraged by what the elders were to accomplish. That may be, Jiraiya. However, the situation is different due to the child condition. Based on his graded skills in the academy, Naruto's progress has improved far too much in such a short time. In said short time, Naruto has easily defeated one Sasuke Uchiha, injuring him quite badly, when before it would have been just the opposite. Naruto Uzumaki has become too powerful much too fast, explained Kaharu. Thump. Tsunade slammed her palm on the table and yelled, that's your excuse? That's a bunch of bull, if you ask me, causing a sizable crack. With his left eyebrow raised, Homura asked, does this mean you disagree, Lady Tsunade? At the same time, Jiraiya and Tsunade exclaimed, what the hell do you think? As he took out a document, Danzo said, I was hoping you would go along with it, Tsunade. But it seems we have no choice to show you that this must be done. When Tsunade looked at the document, she was astounded by what she saw. In summary, it was a formal document that stated that a Jinchuriki from the village would be removed from the shinobi program if his skill level rose too quickly in such a short period of time. She would have disregarded it if it weren't for her sensei's signature. However, she recognized both the official Hokage's stamp and his signature. Even worse, the document said that no Hokage, past or present, could revoke this. The village council members were also unable to revoke it. Tsunade lowered her head in defeat and rage. You see, Lady Tsunade. There is absolutely no excuse for the increase in his skill that could currently keep Naruto Uzumaki within the shinobi program. He must be dropped immediately. That includes no use of any jutsu, as well as the cancellation of his summoning contract with the Toads. Danzo went on. Jiraiya and Naruto were shocked. Such a document was approved by the third Hokage. However, something didn't feel quite right for Jiraiya. Later he would have to investigate. Regretting her impending action, Tsunade inhaled deeply. Without bothering to look up, Tsunade said, I'm sorry, Naruto. But I've got no choice. You are hereby dropped from the shinobi program. With his head bowed, Naruto expressed his shock at the sudden death of his dreams of becoming Hokage. Naruto thought, how could this happen? It's not fair, feeling like he might burst into tears. Lord Jiraiya, is there a way to cancel the summoning contract? Asked Homura. Jiraiya grudgingly acknowledged the question while glaring at the elders. With a sigh, Jiraiya answered, yes, there is. He'd have to draw a line, made out of his blood, through his name. Danzo managed to suppress a smirk as he answered, then he must do so. Tisk. Jiraiya started making hand gestures while biting his thumb. Summoning jutsu. A huge orange toad emerged in a poof of smoke, holding a huge scroll in his tongue. Naruto unfolded his tongue and held the scroll in front of him. Danzo commanded, you heard what to do, now do it. Naruto opened the scroll reluctantly and obeyed. With another poof. The toad and scroll vanished after Naruto had drawn the line of blood through his name. After that, Naruto removed his headband and set it on the table. He was aware that he would no longer require it. Naruto stood up, head lowered, and walked out of the council chambers. Following Tsunade's dismissal of everyone, Danzo thought, now, I can finally get my hands on the 9 tails. The apartment of Naruto with his hands behind his head, Naruto lay on his bed. I can't believe it. I'm no longer a ninja. I can't ever be Hokage. It's not fair. Naruto was thinking. Darkness had already fallen. After making the decision to get ready for bed, Naruto heard someone knock on his door. Naruto stood up and went to answer the door. Naruto was shocked to see who it was when he opened the door, Hina. While still wearing her disguise, Hinata asked, did you forget we had a date tonight, hero? Naruto palmed his face in response. I'm sorry, come in. Hinata dropped the transformation as soon as the door closed. Hinata followed Naruto to his kitchen table and inquired, what happened, Naruto? Why didn't you show up for our date? Sigh. Naruto put a kettle of water on the stove and said, I'm really sorry, Hinata. I really am. It's just that today became hell, is all. Hinata, who was hesitant to use that final word, asked, what happened? Why did it go to hell? Hinata saw sorrow and rage in Naruto's eyes. Naruto had taken a seat and held onto the table. Hinata was worried that he might break the table because he gripped it so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Naruto gritted his teeth and responded at last. Those damn elders said, I've grown too strong too quickly, and that it was too dangerous because of my condition. Although Hinata understood what Naruto meant when he used the word condition, she chose not to interrupt and allowed Naruto to finish his story. And apparently my last mission, my fight against Sasuke, caused them to get me dropped from the shinobi program. They had a document signed by the old man, saying all that crap, said Naruto, yelling the final phrase. Gasp. Fearing the worst, Hinata said, they didn't actually do that, did they? I'm no longer a ninja of the Hidden Leaf Village, I'm just a civilian now. My dream of becoming Hokage is dead. Naruto sighed and said, Grandma Tsunade couldn't do anything about it. She had no choice but to agree. Hinata also started crying. She was shocked to learn that the person she most respected and admired had had their dreams dashed. She had tried to lift his spirits. Although she had succeeded, she had to depart and go to her sensei's apartment by that time. A flat in Kurenai when Hinata heard the standard question, she had just shut the door, in addition to another query. How'd it go? Did he tell you why he was late or forgot? Asked Kurenai. She was surprised when Hinata burst into her, sobbing uncontrollably. Hinata. What's wrong? Don't tell me that he broke up with you. In response, Hinata simply shook her head angrily. Kurenai inquired, then what happened? Hinata told Naruto what had happened after she had calmed down. What Kurenai had just heard was unbelievable. Given what Naruto had achieved on his previous mission, she thought it strange that something of this nature was taking place. Unfortunately, she was powerless to help. Naruto's apartment at 4 a.m. It was Naruto who was fast asleep. But he had the impression that someone was watching him while he slept. He finally woke up with a start. He couldn't get rid of them yet, so he armed himself with a kunai right away. Knowing that someone was present, Naruto exclaimed, "Who's there?" A recognizable voice said, "Calm down, child. I've come with a proposition for you." Naruto, irritated that someone had unexpectedly entered his house, said, "I asked, who's there?" After turning on the room's lights, the figure had to almost instantly defend himself from the kunai that Naruto threw at him. Danzo said, "I'm not here to fight." Naruto grabbed another kunai and retorted, "You break into my apartment, watch me sleep like some creepy asshole, and you expect not to get attacked? Are you stupid?" Danzo responded, ignoring Naruto's insult in the kunai, "As I said, I've come with a proposition." Naruto asked, intrigued but wary of the elderly man, "And what would that be?" "You may no longer be a ninja of the Leaf Village, but you could be a ninja for me," replied Danzo. Unable to understand what he meant, Naruto questioned, "What are you talking about, you old bastard?" Ignoring Naruto's insult once more, Danzo responded, "What I'm saying is, that I have my own division of ninja. They're known as Root. They're similar to the Leaf's Anbu Black Ops, but are more of a secret than the usual Anbu." Before Danzo interrupted, Naruto said, "You're one of the ones who got me kicked out of being a ninja, and you expect me to trust you? By making me work for you? You must be a CRA? You may not trust me, but I can help you become more powerful than you could ever become. I could help you master the Nine Tails power. And what about my dream of becoming Hokage, huh? You ruined all the hard work I put into my training to achieve that dream," Naruto fumed. With a cool-headed tone, Danzo answered, "You and I have the same goal. We both wish to be Hokage. If you help me become Hokage, I'll name you my successor. How does that sound? Even if what you say is true, why should I trust you? And I'm sure there's a catch." "Clever boy." "Yes, there is indeed a catch." Naruto questioned cautiously, "And what would that be?" "You'd have to fake your death. Only then could you rejoin the ninja ranks, as a member of the Root Anbu," replied Danzo. Wide-eyed and shocked, Naruto could only respond with, "What, are you serious?" As he departed in a flurry of leaves, Danzo said, "Yes. I'll give you a week to think about it. I'll meet you here at the same time. Choose wisely." Naruto muttered to himself without even considering the offer. Grr. That fucking bastard. Who does he think he's kidding? I have to think of something, but what? Naruto switched off the light and considered his options. It took him between 45 and an hour to decide. He grabbed a piece of paper and a writing instrument as his first action. With deep regret in his heart, he wrote what he had to write. Hokage's workspace in the Hokage's office were Tsunade, Shizune, Jiraiya, Kakashi, Asuma, Guy, Kurenai, Hinata, Ino, Shino, Lee, Tenten, Shikamaru, and Sakura. Only Shizune and the two Sani knew why they were here. However, Hinata had a suspicion as to why they might be. Tsunade cleared her throat before speaking. "I'm sure most of you are wondering why you've been called here. There's no point in beating around the bush. You are being sent on a mission to retrieve Naruto Uzumaki." When the mission was revealed, everyone was taken aback. Oh, except for Hinata, who flinched a little. Shikamaru was the first to speak. "Excuse me, Lady Tsunade. But, why are we retrieving Naruto? Isn't he still in the village after our last mission?" replied Shikamaru. Sigh. After a collective gasp and a raised eyebrow from Shino, Tsunade went on, "Unfortunately, no he's not. Since the academy, the elders believe that Naruto has grown too strong, too fast. Therefore, he was dropped from the shinobi program. As a result, Naruto has run away from the village. We're a few hours behind, so we need to get going." Shino asked with a hint of curiosity in his voice, "Why would we need to find him then? He's no longer a ninja, so he can't be classified as a rogue ninja." With her hands clasped beneath her chin, Tsunade answered, "That's true. And there are reasons for that, but now's not the time for that. With all due respect, Lady Tsunade, but I think we should know the reason why we're going after a civilian," Tenten responded. Sigh. "Very well. Normally, none of you were supposed to learn of this, but I guess it may be best to, just to improve the chances of success," replied Tsunade. "Why weren't we supposed to learn?" Well, whatever it is," Sakura inquired. Jiraiya was the one who responded. The third Hokage put a law in place to prevent anyone from talking about it. This was to give Naruto a chance at a normal life. But until Naruto became a genin, that didn't happen. It's because many people in this world tend to fear and hate others who share Naruto's burden. This burden is why you were most likely told not to associate with him. Tsunade glared at each of them and said, "What he's getting at is that none of you can tell anyone else, but your teammates, what you hear from here on out. Understood?" With everyone nodding in agreement, Jiraiya went on. The fourth Hokage didn't kill the 9 tails, instead he sealed it inside a newborn child. That child was Naruto. With the exception of Hinata, everyone's mouth fell open. It was Sakura who broke the silence first. Sakura started to say, "You mean to tell me that Naruto is a but was interrupted by a hand on her shoulder. Slap. Thud. Sakura turned around with force. She crashed to the ground after taking a hard slap to the face and a kick to the stomach. Sakura looked up and saw that she had been struck. Sakura screamed, "What the hell did you do that for?" Sakura had been standing exactly where Hinata was now. Tears were streaming down Hinata's face, and her hands were trembling with silent anger. Sakura was about to repeat herself after a brief pause when Hinata finally responded. Hinata shocked everyone in the room, including Kurenai, by yelling, "Don't you dare call him that. You have no idea what kind of life he's had. You should be ashamed of yourself to even have called him your teammate, you dumb bitch." Hinata would never yell, despite her increased confidence. The collective thought was, what the hell? Hinata cursed. Who is she, and what did she do to the real Hinata? Simultaneously. Sakura got up and said, "Oh, and what would you know? Huh? Then." Hinata pulled out a kunai and hurled it at Sakura's feet. Pointing to the kunai, Hinata shouted, "I know more than you think. Look at the markings." Sakura picked up the kunai and did as she instructed. When Sakura saw the familiar markings of Naruto's secret jutsu, she gasped. Sakura inquired, "How did you get this?" "Naruto gave it to Sob. To me before the Sob. Shunin exams. B. Sob. But I've KN. Sob. Known about Naruto's Sob. Secret jutsu for years. I know EV. Sob. Everything about N. Sob. Naruto. Things you couldn't even IM. Sob. Imagine." Hinata responded, as the tears kept falling. Sakura, not believing Hinata, said, peeved, "Yeah right." Kurenai took Hinata by the shoulders and embraced her. Kurenai whispered in Hinata's ear, "Careful, Hinata. It might not be a good idea to let everyone know about your relationship with Naruto, don't you think?" Hinata answered, putting her arms around her sensei, "I don't care, I just want Naruto back." The fact that Hinata did not respond meant that the others were aware of this. Tsunade asked, "Care to explain, Kurenai?" Kurenai glanced into Hinata's eyes and posed a question without saying anything. Kurenai nodded and responded. Sigh. Kurenai went on, receiving wide eyes and disbelieving glances. Since Kakashi's team returned from their mission in the Land of Wave, Naruto and Hinata have been secretly dating. Hinata continued to act shy while Naruto was around, and Naruto would keep asking Sakura out on dates, knowing that she'd turn him down every time. Hinata and I didn't like the idea, but with Naruto's reputation, there wasn't any other options. Wow. Naruto's more clever than I thought. Explains why he kept on summoning Gamakichi. Jiraiya responded. Sigh. What a drag. No offense Hinata, Sakura, but we're gonna need to know what this secret jutsu is. Otherwise, we might not stand a chance against him, said Shikamaru. Sigh. That's another reason why Naruto must be brought back. He knows a very powerful jutsu. It's the fourth Hokage's flying Raijin jutsu. Whaat? Ino cried out, her eyes wide. Before being interrupted by Hinata's extremely menacing glare, Ino continued, Are you serious? There's no way that Naruto could. Never mind. When Shikamaru said, You're kidding. Of all the jutsu in the village, Naruto knows the most advanced one in the entire village? Possibly in the world? He was shocked. Yes, that's right. Naruto happened to have stumbled upon a scroll that contained the jutsu. Only Naruto and Jiraiya knew the location of the scroll, but only after Naruto discovered it. Tsunade responded. With a bead of perspiration on his brow, Shino questioned, You said, Nu, is it correct to assume that the scroll is no longer in that location? Sigh. That's right. Once we heard Naruto had left the village, Jiraiya went to see if the scroll was still there. However, Naruto had taken it with him, making 3 reasons why he must be brought back. Shikamaru placed his hand on Naruto's forehead and said, Could this be any more of a drag? I always knew Naruto was a pain. Anyway, you all need to get going. Unfortunately, your senseis can't accompany you due to the many missions on demand. Now, get going. Tsunade gave the order. Shikamaru and the others then departed to begin their most recent mission. Their senseis, however, were assigned separate missions. Mid-afternoon the following day, Naruto had been evading capture since the morning before. Despite his physical exhaustion, he had to continue. To confuse any potential assailants, he had constructed a shadow clone and launched it in the opposite direction. Fortunately, it had so far been successful. However, Naruto sensed that something wasn't quite right. He thought Hinata had thrown her marked kunai at Sakura yesterday. Shortly after, he noticed that Sakura and Hinata were missing their tags and kunai. Naruto's wish was realized when a flurry of shuriken and kunai abruptly stopped him in his tracks. Naruto noticed his old friends standing on tree branches behind him. Hinata was one of them. Naruto spoke, flashing his trademark silly smile. "Hey guys, what's up?" Shikamaru retorted, "Don't act foolish, Naruto. You know why we're here." Naruto's smile vanished, and his eyes took on a stern expression. Naruto said, keeping his gaze fixed on each of them, "Yeah, I know. I'm surprised it's you guys that came after me though." Shikamaru, watching for any indications of an attack, said, "Jiraiya agreed to go after the other you. So which one are you, the real one or a shadow? Clone?" Naruto answered, "Does it matter? It's not like you can catch me either way." With her hands cupped over her heart and tears on the verge of spilling, Hinata begged, "Naruto, please, come with us." Naruto sighed as he turned to face Hinata. With his lower lip quivering at the sight of Hinata in this state, Naruto responded, "I'm sorry, Hinata. I already told you, I can't go back to the village. Please try to understand." Shino pushed up his sunglasses and said, "So it is true, you and Hinata have been dating in secret for quite some time." Naruto answered, "Yay, that's right. Got a problem with that?" "So the whole time you've been asking me out, it was all for show to keep your relationship a secret?" replied Sakura. Naruto rolled his eyes and replied, "Duh. If you knew why I'm treated like crap, you'd understand." Shino answered, "We're well aware of the 9 tails, Naruto." To scare them, Naruto retorted, "Then you know that the pervy sage taught me how to control some of its chakra, right? Quit trying to scare us, Naruto. It would be too dangerous to teach you to use that thing's chakra," Sakura replied. Naruto said, "Fine. I'll just prove it," with a sigh. Red chakra encircled Naruto a moment later. Smiling, Naruto said, "Believe me now?" Everyone was in disbelief. They have never before felt such a pure chakra in the atmosphere. It dawned on them then that Naruto was right. The red chakra faded, and Ino said, It can't be." With a sing-song voice, Naruto answered, "Oh yes, it can." Naruto pulled out a scroll and said, "Since you didn't know that, do you at least know about my secret jutsu?" Shikamaru narrowed his eyes in response. "Yay, we know you got the 4th Hokage's jutsu. We also know you have his scroll containing his jutsu. Now, just surrender peacefully, none of us want to hurt you." "Sorry, I can't. Hinata can fill Grandma Tsunade in, once you're back home." As this is going on, Naruto's shadow clone as he kept running, Naruto's shadow clone asked, "I wonder how the boss is doing." Standing on a branch in front of the shadow clone, a recognizable voice asked, "So, you're the shadow clone, huh?" When it reached the next branch, the clone said, "Hey, finally caught up, pervy sage." Jiraiya screamed, "Don't call me that, you brat." Sigh, "I understand why you're leaving the village, but what are you planning to do? You know that the Akatsuki are after you. At least in the village, you would have been safe. So, why'd you leave the village?" Jiraiya responded. "You got a point. But I can't stay in the village because of Danzo. He wanted me to fake my death and join his root, Anbu. He'll probably deny it, and there's no other physical proof that I'm right." The clone responded by staring at the ground. Jiraiya gritted his teeth and said, "That bastard. I should have known he'd try something like that. Unfortunately, you're right about the evidence part. Just give me some time, and I'll be able to get the evidence needed. But that could take years. And if I go back to the village, Danzo will make sure I'm imprisoned as soon as he possibly can. Then he'll have an opportunity to make it look like I committed suicide, and then force me to join him somehow. If you ask me, it's too risky for me to go back." "You know, you make some good points for a clone. Who are you, and what happened to the real Naruto?" "Ha ha ha," Jiraiya exclaimed, laughing loudly. With a sarcastic tone, The clone answered, "Ha ha, very funny, pervy. Sage. Heh, sorry. But what about the Akatsuki? What are you going to do about them, if they come after you?" Jiraiya responded. The clone looked Jiraiya in the eye and said, "I'll be able to hold my own, by running away. While I'm doing that, I've got someone in mind who could help me out in a pinch." With heightened curiosity, Jiraiya inquired, "And who would this be?" "Just trust me on this. Okay, Jiraiya?" Jiraiya chose to trust Naruto after being taken aback by the fact that he had addressed him by name. Sigh. "Alright. I'll tell them, you managed to slip past me. But that means I'll have to tell the elders about your secret jutsu. Are you okay with that?" "It's fine. I'll manage." According to Jiraiya, "Alright. If you need anything, just ask." As he applied a seal to the tree he was on and dispelled it, Naruto responded, "Alright. You can start by taking Hinata on as an apprentice, if she wants to, but... And since you've got the seal on your arm, I'll be able to ask for some more upcoming favors. So you better not be peeking at girls when I come flashing by. Okay, pervy. Sage, hee. Sigh. Jiraiya started to return to the village, saying, "I'll see ya around, kid. Be careful. I sincerely hope Naruto will be okay. I'll have to look into that document that Tsunade has the Embu looking at. Hopefully, that'll speed things up." Back with Naruto, Sakura screamed as she charged Naruto, "What do you mean? Hinata will let Lady Tsunade know when we get back to the village. You're coming with us, whether you like it or not." Sakura's punch was dodged, and Naruto said, "Sorry, but I've gotta go." Followed Naruto and yelled, "Get back here," once more. Then the others joined the assault. As he dodged and parried attacks, Naruto made the decision to speak with Hinata right away. Naruto concluded by saying, "Hinata, I'm sorry. But I have no choice. I'm sorry, but I have to go now." He then vanished with a yellow flash. Sakura flew straight through the spot where he had been standing. Sakura exclaimed, "Wah, oof," as she touched down on the forest floor. Sakura got back up and asked, "Where's he go?" With a hint of surprise in his voice, Shino answered, "He might have teleported to where his shadow clone is." According to Shikamaru, which means, Lord Jiraiya will get him. With tears in her eyes, Hinata remarked, "So, that means this was the real Naruto. Yay. Sigh. What a drag. Looks like we failed our mission, we'll just have to return to the village and report to the Hokage," ordered Shikamaru. Hokage's office the following day. Shikamaru had returned to the village with his team. The fact that Jiraiya had already returned was not shocking. Shikamaru informed Tsunade that they had encountered Naruto but were unable to apprehend him. Tsunade closed her eyes and said, "I see. The mission is a failure since Jiraiya had failed to capture Naruto as well." "Excuse me. But, shouldn't Lord Jiraiya have been able to capture Naruto? I mean, Naruto must have teleported where his shadow clone was, right?" Sakura responded. Using the justification he had devised, Jiraiya stated, "It must have happened after his shadow clone dispersed. I figured you guys would have been able to capture him. I guess Naruto's more clever than he lets on. Anyway, what's done is done. Jiraiya will continue his search within his spy network." Sigh. "You are all dismissed. Hinata, could you stay here, please?" replied Tsunade. Tsunade spoke after Hinata and everyone else had gone. "Hinata, I'm aware you're upset that Naruto is gone. But, I'm sure he had no intention of hurting you." Tsunade started off. Tsunade went on without receiving a response. "Naruto requested that Jiraiya take you on as an apprentice." Hinata let out a gasp. She was shocked that Jiraiya would be asked that by Naruto. She had no idea that he would do something like this for her, but she knew he wanted to help her get stronger. Although she was upset with him for going, she was glad he would take care of her in this way. I didn't think Naruto would do this. I guess it's his way of making it up to me. But, he'll have to do better than that. But, that can wait until I see him again," Hinata was thinking. After noticing Hinata's smile, Tsunade questioned, "I assume the smile on your face indicates that you accept?" Hinata nodded, meeting Tsunade's eyes directly. "Yes. It would be an honor. But, I'm sure my father will have questions about everything that will have to come to light," Hinata responded with concern. "Don't worry. I'll talk to you father tomorrow. Okay?" Jiraiya said, smiling encouragingly at Hinata. Hinata answered, "Thank you, P. Pervy. Sage." The expression on Jiraiya's face when she called him that made Hinata and Tsunade laugh. The Hyuga compound was bustling with busy servants at 8 o'clock. Hinata had informed her father the previous evening that Jiraiya from the Sannin would be paying him a visit. Members of the branch house have been working since this morning in an effort to make the place appear presentable for such a significant visitor. Jiraiya didn't arrive at the clan compound's front gates until 9 o'clock, greeted the guard, saying, "Good morning, Lord Jiraiya." Jiraiya returned the greeting, saying, "Good morning. I'm here to speak with Lord Hiyashi." "Yes, of course. Please, go on in," Jiraiya said, "Thank you," as she entered the compound. Another member of the branch family greeted him as he walked up to the main house building. The female servant bowed respectfully and said, "Hello, Lord Jiraiya. Lord Hiyashi is expecting you. Please, this way." Jiraiya eyed her youthful figure and followed her, responding, "Thank you." Jiraiya was escorted to the tea room by the servant. She announced Jiraiya's arrival as she entered the room. "Lord Hiyashi. Lord Jiraiya is here." "Yes, thank you. Send him in, and then you can continue your duties," Hiyashi gave the order. The servant answered with a bow. "Yes, Lord Hiyashi." She turned around, led Jiraiya inside, and then went off to do her job. Jiraiya greeted Hiyashi and his daughters with a bow. "Good morning, Lord Hiyashi. Thank you for allowing me into your home." Hiyashi had stood up and bowed back, as had his daughters. "Of course. It's an honor to have you as a guest in our home, Lord Jiraiya," Hiyashi responded. They were sitting quietly drinking tea a few moments later. The silence was broken by Hiyashi. Hiyashi put down his cup and said, "So, Lord Jiraiya, what is the reason for your visit?" Jiraiya said, putting down his cup too, "I'm sure, by now, you've heard about what happened with my last apprentice, Naruto." As he took another sip, Hiyashi said, "Yes, I have. It's a shame he left the village. But, I've only heard rumors behind his reasons for leaving." Sigh. Jiraiya took a sip of his tea and said, "I've heard some as well. I haven't found out the truth until I met Naruto's shadow clone during the retrieval mission." "I see. And what reason would that be, if I may ask?" "Unfortunately, we have no evidence to support what Naruto claims. So, I believe it's best if his reasons don't come to light just yet," Jiraiya responded. Hiyashi nodded in response. "Fair enough. But what does this have to do with your visit?" "I can assure you that Naruto's reason is just. When I spoke with him, he asked me to take on Hinata as an apprentice. I've come to ask if this is alright with you," Jiraiya responded. Hiyashi raised an eyebrow in question. "I'm sure his reasons are just, as I have no reason to believe otherwise. But, why would he request such a thing?" Observing a curious look on Hiyashi's face, Jiraiya went on, "Hey. Not surprising that you don't know. I myself haven't heard of this, until just recently. Naruto and Hinata have been dating in secret for a few months now. This is mostly due to Naruto's condition and reputation. The only one who knew of this was Hinata's sensei, Kurenai Yuhi. It would be an understatement to say that Hiyashi was taken aback, but he didn't display much of it on his face in spite of this. With a hint of surprise in his voice, Hiyashi questioned, "You mean to tell me that your apprentice Naruto managed to keep a secret like that from even you? And how do you expect me to believe you?" In the most courteous manner possible, Hanabi said, "Father, if I may." Hiyashi raised an eyebrow in response. "Yes, you may." Hanabi said, "Father, he's telling the truth." Jiraiya raised an eyebrow and said, "Oh, and how would you know that? Short stuff?" Hiyashi questioned, "Yes, how would you know this, Hanabi?" "It was shortly after the invasion. I've noticed Hinata has gotten more confident, and I wanted to know why. So, I followed Hinata. She went to her sensei's apartment and later came out under a transformation jutsu. I followed her for the rest of the day, and she met up with Naruto, who was also in disguise. I was surprised when I finally saw it was the boy everyone hated. But, Hinata didn't. I didn't show myself until they started kissing," Hanabi clarified. Hinata was so flushed that she was embarrassing a tomato. Jiraiya teased, Based on the expression on Hinata's face, I'd have to say she's telling the truth." In his typical monotone, Hiyashi said, "Yes, I understand why Hinata didn't tell me about her relationship with a boy, but why didn't you tell me about your sister's relationship with Naruto, Hanabi?" With disappointment in her voice, Hanabi answered, "I tried asking how Naruto beat Neji, but he wouldn't tell me. But, he made me a deal. If I didn't tell anyone, he'd tell me. But, I'll never get to know how, not anymore." "I see. Regardless of the reason, you should have told me. The same goes for you, Hinata." "But, that's all in the past now," Hiyashi replied. "That's true. And as far as Naruto beating Neji is concerned, that knowledge is going to be told to the rest of the village. It'll be common knowledge for everyone in the elemental nations within a few weeks, if that," Jiraiya replied. "Is that so?" I admit, I'm curious as to how he managed to defeat Neji. Do you mind enlightening us? Hiashi responded. Observing the hopeful expression in Hanabi's eyes, Jiraiya responded, as long as you can keep it quiet, until Lady Tsunade hands out the news. Jiraiya got a nod and went on. About 2 years ago, Naruto discovered the 4th Hokage's Jutsu scroll. Out of all the jutsu in that scroll, Naruto mastered on jutsu within a year. The Flying Raijin Jutsu. Hospital. Room of Kiba exclaimed, WHAAT, after discovering 3 of Naruto's secrets. You mean to tell me that Naruto and Hinata have been dating since before the Chunin exams? Kiba's response left Kurenai and Shino speechless. He had just heard from Shino about Naruto's 9 tails and how he was aware of the 4th Hokage's fabled jutsu. Shino pushed up his sunglasses and said, Kiba. That's true, but it's not as relevant as Naruto's abilities. Huh? Oh, you mean about the 9 tails and the 4th jutsu? Kiba responded. It took a moment for Kiba to receive the news. Kiba's eyes widened as she exclaimed, What? You've got to be kidding me? Are you serious? Sigh. Yes, Kiba. It is true. I've known about these secrets for some time now as well. But I didn't know about Naruto's jutsu until after the invasion, replied Kurenai. You've known Hinata and Naruto were dating this whole time? Of course. Naruto talked to me about it first, although I didn't really give him a choice in the matter. HMHM. Hyuga manner astonished, Hiashi questioned, the Flying Raijin Jutsu, is it even possible to master such an advanced jutsu in just a year? I'm not sure how Naruto did it, but he did. Haha. I couldn't be more proud. Jiraiya replied, grinning broadly. Apparently, it is. Hanabi questioned, what's so great about the Flying Raijin Jutsu? Without faltering, Hinata answered, Hanabi. That was a jutsu the 4th Hokage used. With it he was capable of taking out hundreds or thousands of enemies at once. With her eyes shining as though she were gazing at her idol, Hanabi exclaimed, Really? And your boyfriend can use that jutsu? Which made Hinata flush. Hinata blushed even more when Hiashi remarked, It seems Hinata has grown more confident, thanks to Naruto. Jiraiya agreed with Hiashi and said, That's true. From what I've heard, it definitely seems so. Haha. Jiraiya turned to face Hiashi. So, Lord Hiashi. About Hinata's apprenticeship. According to Hiashi, who was grinning, I think it would be a great idea. Hinata has had this drive to become stronger lately. I believe this would be a great opportunity. That's fantastic. I admit, I can't teach her about the Hyuga's gentle fist. But I'm sure I can make up for by making her stronger. I just need your permission to take Hinata on a training adventure for 2.5 to 3 years. That's quite a long time, but I don't see the harm in letting her go. If that's all right with Hinata and Lady Hokage, of course. I've already got permission from Tsunade. So, how about it, Hinata? Want to go on an adventure? Jiraiya responded. Hinata bowed her head and said, Yes, of course, Lord Jiraiya, it would be an honor. Then be ready in 1 week. That's when we'll leave for your training. Understood. Naruto Bridge, great, happy to be back in the land of waves, Naruto exclaimed. The Great Naruto Bridge, wow, they named the bridge after me. Awesome, sigh. I hope they can help me. Tezuna's residence. Knock knock. Tezuna's house was just reached by Naruto. He hoped they would be able to assist them somehow. The door opened abruptly as the sound of approaching footsteps reached it. When Inari realized who was at the door, he yelled, Huh? Naruto, and gave Naruto a firm embrace. Naruto was pleased to see Inari again and said, Hey, Inari. How are you doing? Inari drew away from Naruto to look into his face and asked, Are you here to visit, Naruto? Naruto looked away and answered in a dejected manner. No, sorry, but I do need your guys' help. If you guys don't mind. Tezuna asked from the doorway, Of course, we don't mind. You saved this land. What do you need, short stuff? Naruto looked at Tezuna and said, Thanks, old man. But can I come in first? I need to explain why I need your help. Tezuna motioned Naruto inside and said, Sure, come on in. Tsunami went inside and started making tea. Naruto had started out by describing the recent events in the village, beginning with the Chunin exams. He filled them in on his journey. He eventually informed them of Sasuke's attempt to join the Hidden Sound village in order to gain power. He explained to them how his friends put their lives in danger to bring Sasuke back, and how some of them almost lost their lives in the process. Naruto clarified that he had successfully returned Sasuke with minimal difficulty. But after returning to the village, he was dismissed from the shinobi program. Gasp. Tsunami gave Naruto another cup of tea and said, I can't believe they'd do something like that. It shouldn't matter what the reason is, you shouldn't have been tossed aside like that. Sigh. I know. It's sorta complicated, but it's what happened afterwards that caused me to leave the village, replied Naruto. Inari questioned, and why is that, Naruto? One of the elders that caused me to get dropped from the program, tried to get me to fake my death and join his own ranks of ninja. And I just couldn't do it. I left, because there was no other physical evidence to support that. Naruto responded by sipping on his tea. Tazuna clenched his fist on the table and asked, why that no good, rotten snake? Did he honestly expect you to join him so easily? Naruto responded, picturing a furious expression on Danzo's face, I guess so. But, I'm sure he's pretty pissed off right now. Hee hee. Anyway, is there a way you guys could get me a boat to the land of water? Asked Naruto. Tsunami questioned, why do you need to go to the land of water, Naruto? Well, I made some plans that I'm going to need some help with, and I have a friend in the land of water that could help me with them, replied Naruto. Inari questioned, a friend? Do you mean, Haku? Naruto replied, that's the one. Tsunami inquired, so, what are your plans? Naruto grinned broadly and said, sorry, can't tell you. It'll take a few years, until it's finally done. Tsunami said, I see. Holding his chin in his hand, Tazuna said, well, if it's a boat you need, I might be able to help you out. But, it might take a few days. Naruto answered, that's fine. I made sure I wasn't followed. After a week, the Hidden Leaf Gate Kurenai was at the gate with the rest of Squad 8. They would bid Hinata farewell and wish her luck. Good morning, kids. Jiraiya said, avoiding the spotlight behind Kurenai and her group. Kurenai bowed and said, Lord Jiraiya, how are you this morning? The reply from Jiraiya was, better, now that I see a young beautiful lady. Sigh. Kurenai said in a chilly tone, Naruto was right. You are a pervert. Jiraiya pouted and said to himself, ah, that little brat, he has to ruin everything. Kurenai enjoyed the expression on Jiraiya's face and responded, it's not like you had a chance in the first place, pervy. Sage, HMHM. Jiraiya lowered his head and said, is there anyone Naruto didn't tell to call me that? Kurenai simply responded with more laughter. As she greeted everyone, Hinata said, good morning, everyone. As Akamaru approached Hinata, Kiba said, hey, Hinata, how y'all doing? Hinata answered, bending down to pet Akamaru. I'm fine. I'm actually a little nervous, but I'm also excited about this training trip. Kiba said, hey, I'm sure you'll do great, Hinata. Shino said, I believe so as well. As Hinata made her way to Kurenai, she said, thank you. Kurenai hugged Hinata and said, Hinata, work hard, and come back stronger than ever, okay? Hinata returned the hug and said, I will, Kurenai-sensei. According to Jiraiya, it's time to go. Kurenai withdrew, saying one final thing before releasing Hinata. Good luck, Hinata. Before approaching Jiraiya, Hinata said, thank you, sensei. Ready? Inquired Jiraiya. The answer from Hinata was, ready. As she turned to leave the gate, Jiraiya said, then let's go. Right. The land of water. For the past 3 days or so, Naruto had been looking for Haku. As he made his way to the Hidden Mist village, Naruto left his shadow clones to wander the nation. He received the memories of a shadow clone while he was a few miles away from the village. After the shadow clone spotted Haku, Naruto made his way to the shadow clone's location. Fortunately, before spreading, Naruto's clone produced another clone. An hour or so later, Naruto had finally reached Haku's location. The only thing was that Haku appeared to be on the verge of hanging himself. Naruto threw a kunai and sliced through the rope as Haku started to fall with it around his neck. Haku fell to the ground as a result. Glancing up at the severed rope, Haku exclaimed, oof, what happened? I could ask the same thing. He was taken aback by the identity of the person who had asked the question. Naruto. Good to see you, Haku. So, why are you trying to commit suicide? I thought you were going to realize Zabuza's dream. To stop the bloodline purge, replied Naruto. Sigh. Yes, I did. I was able to assist the resistance, which gave Lady May the opportunity to assume the position of 5th Mizukage. I later came to the realization that I had lost my purpose. Thus, I departed from the village, Haku clarified. Sigh. Is a purpose truly necessary for you to live? Naruto inquired. Haku replied, glancing at the ground, yes. All right, if that's true. Naruto smiled and said, I just so happen to need your help with something. And what would that be? Haku asked, looking up with hope in his eyes. Because of some stupid elders, I left the Leaf Village. Later, I will explain. In any case, I need your assistance. Do you join me? With his hand extended, Naruto inquired.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.